There's the weather conditions as they are right now. 37 degrees centigrade. The wind is 16 kilometers an hour right now. I think it's getting close up towards the 40 degrees centigrade point at this moment in time as we look at Lucelle, where this race is going to start. So if you've been following the time trials over the last few days, it's been mainly on the laps of the circuit around the Pearl. This time we go back to the course of the team time trial. The riders starting in Lucelle and riding all the way down to the Pearl. Well, the riders warming up now. They're getting ready for racing. It is going to start in just a few moments' time. In fact, the first rider will roll down the start ramp in 5 minutes' time. And that will be Soufiane Hardy of Morocco, who will be the first rider here, given the honour of taking to the race start to decide this men's elite individual time trial. Well, it's really going to take a very fast rider. And a rider, of course, with a lot of power and strength to win this race today. 40 kilometers of racing in total as these riders just make last-minute adjustments, continue to keep the legs turning over and warming up before they get onto the bikes and roll down the start ramp. Now, over the last few days, we've had the riders going in waves. So we've had a group of riders going and then a big gap until the riders take to the start for the next group. That doesn't happen today. It is a pure race with the riders going off at 1.5 minute intervals. Here's the previous winners of the last 4 years. Vasyl Kirienka, the defending champion, having won it in Richmond. Bradley Wiggins won it in Ponferrada. Tony Martin, of course, he took the last 2 victories in 13 and 12, but he also won it in 2011 as well. So 3 times the world time trial champion for the men. This is what happened last year out on the course in Richmond. Very different profile, of course, to what we're going to see today. It was Capel who raced across the line to take the bronze medal. Adriano Malori was the silver medalist. But it was all about Vasyl Kirienka. The Belarusian looked absolutely supreme on the course, taking the victory by just over 9 seconds. Soufiane Hardy then about to get underway. He's getting himself ready. And alongside me is Rob Hales, ready for today's individual time trial for the men. Rob, yesterday we had a great race for the women. Today we're seeing 70 riders, a big field, take to the start for this time trial. And shall we take a look at the course?
Yeah, it's identical to the team time trial course, so we can see it's fairly technical. You know, within 400 meters there is pretty much a 90-degree turn on the run out, and then they get onto this long, big, long, straight section. This is where the powerful riders, those big rouleurs, this is where they can really lay down some power. There is currently, on the finish line, absolutely 0 wind out there, because it is. So that could very well have played a part. But as it stands at the moment, it's hot out there, but there is 0 wind. Here they come down towards the Pearl, and this is the circuit that we've been used to over the last couple of days. 2 laps of this circuit that all the other individual time trials have done. Here, obviously, they've got that long run in, and then they come into the Pearl and they do half of the circuit, pretty much 2/3 of the circuit. So it's technical at the start, big open in the middle, and then a little bit technical at the back end of the race. But it's all going to be about pace control, pace judgment in this heat, as we've seen over so many of the other riders during the races previously over the last couple of days. If you get that wrong, you can be right up there, well within the ballpark of the leaders through the first few time checks, and then that final quarter of the race. If you start to die off, you lose time hand over fist. So pace judgment key today.
Well, we'll see who does manage to judge the pace over the coming few hours as we decide who is the men's individual time trial world champion. As we look here at the rundown of the riders, who's going to be taking to the start. Some very big names going towards the end of the field here as we go into the final 10. And of course, we have got Vasyl Kirienka, Tom Dumoulin, Rowan Dennis, Tony Martin, Bob Jungels is in there, another great time trialist as well. He's really come on in his time trialing ability at an elite level. Bob Jungels previously, of course, though, a very, very good individual time trialist when he was a junior and an under-23 rider. Well, these riders then just getting the bikes checked, but the first rider now is on the start ramp, and this is Soufiane Hardy of Morocco, about to roll down this big start ramp and get himself underway in this individual time trial. He goes now and rolls down the start ramp, a man who is generally racing for Middle Eastern teams, and he into this first phase of this individual time trial. A lot of wind there in the opening area of this event, Rob, but certainly you're absolutely right. There's no wind down at the finish.
Yep, and this is the first signs that we've seen of the start. So wind could very well play a little bit of a part in the opening part of today's race. But here for Hadi, well, it's a long, lonely road ahead of him. First man out there, he has the unenviable task of chasing, well, absolutely no one. He's just got to keep the lead motorbike that's taking him around the course. Just keep an eye on him. But you know, it's a time trial. It is the race of truth. It's you against the clock. But as we have seen in previous races, if you start later on and you are going well and you have your minute man, sometimes your 2, 3 and 4 minute man, you can catch them out on the road, and that really does help. But obviously, for the first man out here, the first of 70 riders out today from Morocco, it's just him against his own feelings, and you know, we'll just have to wait and see how he copes with this ride here today.
Yeah, and in the nicest possible way, he doesn't want to see anybody until the finish, to be honest. He doesn't want to be caught. Bonaventure Uwazumana is about to start for Rwanda, rolling down the start ramp, choosing the deep section carbon wheels here to slice through the air. And he's just going to settle down into the rhythm. So the first group of riders, the first big name, I guess, we're going to see is going to be Gidemenes Bagdonas, who will be the 10th rider to take to the start line. Also going relatively early is Ryan Mullen, the young Irish rider, who will be starting 13th today. Let's hope it's a lucky number for Ryan Mullen.
We're just having a look at the race map, and between the first time check and the second time check, just before they enter the trickiest section down West Bay Lagoon and then finally onto this final little circuit here, the loop round the Pearl, it's actually a tailwind. If the wind out in the open sections as it is at the start line here. It's not a big wind, but certainly enough to make these flags move, and still, just to reiterate, there is absolutely zero wind here at the moment on the finish line here. So there could be some very fast, you know, which will suit the more powerful riders, I think, just to really get up on top of that gear that they'll be using, and to have a nice big long flat straight section with some tailwind really will be, you know, that'll make 1 or 2 riders pretty happy.
Just thinking, one rider I think has just missed the start, Rob. So Saeed Alawi hasn't taken to the start. This is the next rider. This is Mohsin Khan of Pakistan.
Yep, so again, the rider from Pakistan, he's not going to have anybody really to chase. He's got 2 minutes to make up if he wants to get anybody in sight.
Philip Mercer has given us our first question of the day. Despite the number of roundabouts, Rob, do you feel the course will favour power over technique to find the winner?
It's a little bit of both, to be honest, Philip. It's certainly power is crucial. If you haven't got that, it doesn't matter how much technique that you have. You know, this isn't a prologue. This isn't a really tight, sharp prologue. You know, although on the course map they are big 90-degree lefts, there are a couple of 180-degree turns that the riders have got in the opening couple of kilometres, and then on the final run-in as well to the finish. But ultimately, it's about power and fitness. But as we've seen in the previous races, if you have no technique, you will lose some time. But ultimately, it is power over technique, certainly.
Okay, so the riders will be looking to keep the power on all the way through this ride as Mohsin Khan of Pakistan is about to get underway. This is the third rider to take to the start. Should have been the fourth rider, but Saeed Alawi has not started. Getting underway then and getting onto the aero skis as early as he possibly can. Get the bike up to top speed. So in the hotel where we're staying this morning, I saw Tony Martin, and he went out for a little warm-up by the looks of things. Is that normal to do that? He came back into the hotel having been out on the bike, and I wonder whether that is the general thing that riders do.
Yeah, it's it's a preferential choice, but generally, bearing in mind Tony Martin, he sets off just coming up to 3:10 a little bit later on this afternoon, so he's got plenty of time to get up, and no doubt quite a number of the riders, especially the bigger time trialists, the ones with the most experience, the most to gain, certainly will have got up, possibly had a light breakfast, and then gone out for a bit of a ride. Nothing too strenuous, just turning the legs really. There's certainly no point in training. That's all been done, and let's not forget it was only a few days ago that Tony World Championship winning team for Ethics in the men's team time trial, and if any of the information is to go by one or two of the riders within that team, but also just kind of visually, Tony Martin seems to be back on form, and I think he is right, and rightly so. 6 times podium already over the years in the individual time trial, 3 times a winner, but he's had a little bit of a lackluster year, I think, in time trialing. Pretty much this year he seems to have struggled, and a lot of that I think was psychological as well. I know he's changed his position a little bit. I was talking to one of the guys from the German team earlier on a few days ago, and I said, what exactly is it that Tony Martin has done to his position? And it's pretty much his hand position on the bars. He's gone back to a more parallel forearms, like we see Hadi here. Certainly, he will be a little bit more efficient than the Moroccan rider here in his setup, but what we see with a number of riders, they either choose this, which is kind of a more of an old style position with your hands parallel to the ground with your elbows, or the more kind of praying mantis position where your hands just come up a little. For me, that's more efficient, but Tony Martin felt that he was losing power, and it was playing with his mind a little bit, and well, he's changed it back, and he certainly seems to be back on form, the sort of form that we would be expecting from him.
Yeah, so it looks like it has worked for him. But yeah, he went out on the bike this morning. He came back into the hotel at around about 10:30, maybe just about 10:15.
Yeah, and he'll certainly be wanting to improve on his 12th place from the Olympics, the recent Olympics in Rio. That was a little bit of a shocker for him, I think. He has had one win this year in the Tour of Britain, actually. Recent Tour of Britain in the time trial there. Last week, or a couple of weeks ago, he was 13th in the individual time trial in the Eneco Tour, if that's a kind of guide to go for, but he was certainly one of the more powerful riders within that World Championship winning team team time trial squad.
He looked very, very good indeed during that time trial. We're not really getting a shot here of the riders on the start. We are seeing the bikes being measured. We go back to the start now. I'm just picking up as to which rider this is, who is about to take to the start, and this is Reddy Halila, who is about to roll down the start ramp for Albania to get this individual time trial underway. The Bagdonas of Lithuania will be starting in just a few moments. Andre Grifko, Ryan Mullen will also be taking to the start very, very soon indeed. If you would like to tweet in at McCrossan, at Rob Hales, @1 is where you can tweet us during today's racing, and you can ask us any questions or give us your predictions. Some early predictions here from Philip Mercer, who asked us that question. Tony Martin, Dumoulin and Rowan Dennis, the top 3 riders potentially later on this afternoon when we get to the end as the Albanian rider gets started. I had an interesting conversation about 20 minutes ago, just before the race start, and the Danish team have been measuring the temperature and the humidity throughout the entire race, and contrasting if you go early or go late in the starting order. And what they found, certainly over the last 2 days, is that the temperature is pretty constant throughout the entire time trial, but the humidity has gone from around about 55 to yesterday afternoon in the women's time trial to 30. And basically what's happening then is there's no moisture in the air, and the riders are basically just can feel the burning when they're breathing. But earlier on in the race, they're able to breathe.
Well, that's what we were expecting, wasn't it, in terms of, certainly we didn't really figure into account humidity, but it certainly seemed to suit a lot of the earlier riders. Here, obviously, we're starting a lot later in the day, and you know, temperature-wise, I think it's, you know, the temperature has certainly risen throughout the day over the other races, but I think maybe with reflective heat as well coming up off the road, it hasn't really changed the ambient temperature for the riders so much. But as well, I know that humidity actually plays a part in speed. Certainly on the velodromes, you want it to be low pressure. You know, the ideal for an hour record for a fast time in any of the timed events on the velodrome, you want high temperature, low pressure, but also high humidity. High humidity as well. So that would also go a little bit towards potentially some of the variations within the conditions of the riders. But also there has been a little bit of wind picking up, seems to have picked up later on in the day. Now, here, if that happens with that long section, that long tailwind section, obviously if the wind does pick up later on, that will certainly favour those riders going off. Or if it dies completely out there and it dies off like it is here at the finish, then it will suit some of these earlier riders. But okay, that's, you know, that's the luck of the draw.
Yeah, but it's interesting to see the way they've been analysing to find out how it's going to change and actually how it's going to affect riders potentially in the road races as well.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, at least in the road race, everybody's under the same conditions. You know, you're all out there together, whereas the time trial, you know, when you're spread over a couple of hours of the day and the conditions change, you know, weather, you know, we've seen it so often in the past. You go off early and it's wet and then it dries out for the later riders, especially on a circuit like this where there are a few bends. You could make up a lot of time or lose a lot of time if it's wet. Here, I don't think we're going to have problems like
the next rider to go from Eritrea, Meron Tessom, has got started. There's a few riders arriving at their starts, just a little bit close to the starting time.
Yeah, sometimes it's good for you, you know, a little bit of adrenaline at the start, as long as you can hold yourself back. There were one or two riders, we've seen it with issues with mechanicals and punctures. I think in the women's yesterday, there was one of the rider started on her road bike and then had a bike change. But yeah, if you get your timings wrong, which is unusual when you're in this kind of situation, but one or two do it. Generally, it's not up to the riders; it's up to their team staff, and you know you have to rely on your soigneur or your manager or whoever, because obviously your team director. Here we go.
Yep, he comes up and realises his start time is about to happen. Did the right thing though. Got onto the start.
Didn't
jumped
panic
on the bike. And was literally given the 5-second countdown.
And then realised that his visor was still up on his helmet.
Crikey.
Clip that down.
Next rider has got himself here on time, but this rider is very experienced in the time trial. This is Bagdonas, a really strong rider. He's won the Anpost RAS, hasn't he? So he's an extremely powerful bike rider.
Yep. 2011 national time trial champion as well. Rides for AG2R Le Mondial on the road, and you know, a very, very high quality bike rider, and he, you know, a good solid teammate out on the road, and quality time trialist as well.
Yeah, very, very strong. So this could be a rider that we will see be setting the standard along the route as things continue. He is really into that aero tug very, very quickly. The next rider already from Kazakhstan is in the starting ramp. You can see that in the background, but Bagdonas, expect to see him set a few fast times as we head towards the intermediate time splits. There's intermediate time splits along the route today 13.6 kilometers, 26.4, and then the finish line is where we'll get some good splits to give us a good indication of how these riders are doing. Not long until Andre Grifko starts and Ryan Mullen as well. But this rider here rolling along at 55 to 60 k's an hour, looking good.
Yeah, this is that pretty much long straight tailwind section just coming up to a roundabout here. And he's opening himself up, you know, with a little bit of a tailwind section. The speed really does start to come up.
This is Zandos Bizajitov of Kazakhstan, who is now getting going down the start ramp. Our mascot is still there on the left-hand, enjoying the desert sunshine.
He's had a long week so far, yes. Bless him.
Without any doubt. That's got to be very warm indeed. But he's always been there and looking after all the riders on the starting area. So later on this afternoon then, Rob, we got some massive name time trials, the fastest time trialists in the world, and they go around 3:12 is the last rider to go, Vasil Kirienka. He won last year, maybe on a course you might not have expected him to win on, but a day like today, flat course, suits a really powerful rider like Kirienka. So is he going to defend his title? Has he got a chance to?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, he's been on the podium twice before as well. This year, his best individual time trial result is actually a third. It's fairly unusual for somebody who has worn the rainbow jersey throughout the season not to have won an individual time trial. But I think a lot of that you've got to look into the fact that he's held back as a team player. So it's not really up to him to really push on, bury himself in a time trial if he's looking after general classification riders. That said as well, at the Olympic Games on a course where you thought, oh, you know, it's pretty grippy. He was only 17th at the Olympic Games. But yeah, is he coming back to form? Let's hope so. I think he was struggling just a little bit in a team time trial the other day. Yeah. But never discount a rider like Kirienka.
No, never know. This morning he can just get up and go, right, this is the day I've been waiting for, and could come through to take the victory yet again. But there's some other great big names in this race that we'll come to later on. Interesting question from Shapiro. Are the riders using elliptical chain rings, and do they help? What's the latest scientific thinking on elliptical chain rings?
I think a lot of it is down to riders' preferential choice. We've seen one or two out there with riders this week. I don't know if they were more of a fashion thing. There is certainly some kind of scientific basis to say that they work, but then you read other papers and it's nothing there. I know Bradley Wiggins used the real big, you know, a real disparity between the smallest section of the front chainring and the biggest section. Yeah. You know, it really does jump up and down. So one of the things you've got to look out for and bear in mind is obviously your chain, you know, on the chainring and the front mech.
Ryan Mullen underway, 4 times a winner of the Chrono de Nation. Second in the Under-23 World Championship. This young rider, really good time trialist, moved to the Cannondale Drapac team this year. He's been very, very quiet during the season. Yeah,
9th in the Tour of Britain time trial just a few weeks ago, so he certainly got some kind of form and a very, very good position, nice position on his bike. But yeah, just going back to the oval chain rings, I think it's, if you feel that you're going to get a benefit from them, then you use them. But I mean, the interesting thing for me is normally when you get a brand new group set, you build your bike up, and on your front derailleur, so often, especially on the Shimano ones, you had a little sticker, and it had about a 3mm gap between a line, and it said you must put your chain ring here for optimal changing.
Yeah.
And then you go and put a big elliptical chain ring on, and well, I'll let you work that out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll see.
To be fair, it's nothing that I haven't really used one. I did have a go. Magnus Baxter used to absolutely rave about them, and I had a go on his bike, and it did feel very different.
Right.
Again, I think it's something, if you do choose to have a go with them, don't put them on the morning of race day.
No.
Train on them because the feeling is quite different and the sensations.
This is Maxim Belkov, the Russian rider. Another very strong time trialist. Just going to roll down the start ramp and get underway.
Yeah, more of a climber, isn't he, Belkov?
Yeah.
He was third in the national time trial this year, but certainly not a course I don't think that will favour Belkov particularly.
What's the thoughts behind a rider like him, though, who is a good time trialist but a better climber, actually riding the World Championships?
Yeah, maybe he just feels that actually, you know, I'm here to be a team player. You know, again, as a climber, you wouldn't have thought he would have any aspirations for come Sunday for the road race. But it's an interesting one. Maybe he just feels that he's here. You know, he's representing his nation. He's going out there, and you know, this is they could be taking data from this race and taking that forward, looking for other races, you know, next year and the year after. But also, ultimately, you know, even if you don't feel that you have got the potential to get on the podium, you know, if that was the case, we'd only have a dozen or so riders on the start line as well.
Right. Very true.
But he's here, you know, it's his job. He's a professional bike rider, and it's just another day out for him.
This is Søren Kragh Andersen, a 22-year-old rider from Denmark, about to get started. Counting down now until he is underway. Rides for the giant Alpecin team, soon to become Sunweb. And just to confuse everybody in the world of cycling, Alpecin will now join up with Katusha and become Katusha Alpecin.
Bless you.
It's all change as far as that is concerned. Keiko Flores has said that a prediction of Tony Martin winning today's time trial. And another question from Daniel Hennessy here, Rob. Is the sand playing any part in bike handling and performance out on the road?
Not really, no. Fortunately, up to this point, obviously if there's a little bit of sand that's been blown off the side of the road onto a bend, then that can have fairly catastrophic problems for the rider. You know, I don't think we have to go into too much detail, but if you're banking the bike over, especially at speed, and you hit some sand on a bend, then you don't have to, you know, you don't need a big imagination to know exactly what's going to happen. But generally, no. If the wind was really blowing here and you had a bit of a sandstorm, which can be quite common here, then yeah, that would have a hugely adverse effect. But up to this point, it's all been good.
Yeah, we've only seen one or two crashes. Senna Lazen was one of the riders who crashed a few days ago. This is Reto Hollenstein of Switzerland, second in the Baloise Belgian Tour. About to roll down the start ramp and get underway for the Swiss team. Those riders who are coming up, Vegard Stake Lungen, who's a very good Norwegian time trialist, but one rider who we are going to see very shortly, and even could be getting a bit of superstition as far as his number is concerned. The rider that might surprise a few people, certainly in the opening number of riders who are going to take to the start, is going to start in 6 minutes' time, and that is Marcin Biablowski, the Polish rider, an extremely good time trialist. He's starting at 13:57. We're now at 13:51, and Marcin could surprise a lot of the opposition here, Rob, this afternoon.
Yeah, Marcin is one of those riders. He's been up there, top 10, 9th, in fact, last year. And I know we were chatting about Marcin a few days ago, and you've spoken to him since then, and he was actually disappointed with that result, which goes to show exactly where he feels he should be. But I know back in, I think it was the end of the first week in September, so fairly recently, he had a fairly successful weekend back in the UK. He's a UK-based rider, and he broke Alex Dowsett's 10-mile and 25-mile time trial on the Saturday and the Sunday. 16 minutes and 35 for 10 kilometres, for 10 miles, almost 16 kilometres. for those who work in metric, and 44.04 for the 25-mile time trial. And he was actually quite disgusted with himself that he didn't make it just under the 44 minutes, which again just goes to show his expectations. But just moving back to the start, it's interesting to note the wind is picking up a little bit, as we can see, but it's also changed direction. It's a howling tailwind out of the start, which will help those riders, but they just have to make sure that they don't overcook it right at the very start and get carried away. But it means that that long, straight section that we've been talking about earlier, it'll still be behind them, but it's more of a cross tailwind now, so it will have slightly different effect. But it doesn't seem to be blowing enough to give any issues, and the direction certainly in that open section with controlling the bike. Obviously, if it's very windy and you've got crosswinds blowing across and gusting when you've got a deep section front wheel, it's almost like someone grabbing your handlebars and pulling it from under your arms.
Alexei Van Mullen of the United States of America, the 21-year-old rider from the USA, Lotto NL Jumbo he rides for, is now underway. And so we have seen the first riders start to go through the opening time split. So Fane Hardy is the fastest rider, 18 minutes 35.28. Here is Marcin Biablowski. It's interesting the riders are wearing the ice vests, rubbing the legs with frozen bottles. Vegard Stekelengen now is underway, the winner of the Tour of Alsace, riding for Norway. We talked a little bit about this last night, about ice vests and the amount of ice that people are putting on them during the race. Yeah,
the thought is to keep the core body temperature down, but you need the muscles, certainly the muscles in the legs, to be activated and warm. I've never used ice jacket. I've never been one for that, although we did use, they were actually Canadian chairs from the Canadian Fire Service, and they were using it for firefighters who'd been in burning buildings. They come out, obviously their body temperature is elevated really high, quite some. And what you do, you immerse your forearms in cold water. And what that does, obviously, because the blood comes to the surface in your forearms, it's a little bit like the elephant's ears, so that cools it. But you need your muscles to be warm and activated. And I know Chris Boardman was using cologne this was way back in '92 in Barcelona, because it was hot there, and just prior to his start, spraying himself with cologne just to cool, it's more of a feeling for, psychological thing. And I know they put that to Bradley Wiggins, but he wasn't up for it because he said no, it was a waste of alcohol.
Jeremy Roy of France has started now into the first phase of the ride. Looks like he's wearing one hydration systems right on his back, and a few riders will choose to do that as well, so they don't have to think about taking a bottle. But as you mentioned a couple of days ago, they might leave the bottle in the bike anyway to help with the aerodynamic advantage of the bike. Yeah, certainly. A lot of the bikes are set up and designed, with the aerodynamics, and here you can see some, the arms being cooled down, ice pack down the back. We see it in the Tour de France, on the road, on hot days, guys going back to team cars and basically getting little kind of nets of ice, almost in like a stocking, to hold it all together. And you just put it down in between your shoulder blades, down on the nape of your neck, and just let the cold water trickle down. And a lot of it is more of a psychological thing, and it is, I know, back in riding Tour of Langkawi in Malaysia, and just someone cracking open a can of Coke. I remember I was about 3 wheels back behind this guy, and just a spray off this can, it was heaven, absolute heaven. Here is Marcin Biablowski about to get started. There's a problem here for him as he tries to get his foot into the pedals. There's a little bit of nerves going on here. I wonder whether this is because this man knows he's right on form, and he knows that today is a day that he has been aiming for 12 months now, since he did finish 9th in the World Championships. There was just a little bit of on there, and he's now into the aero tuck immediately. No hanging around, straight into full power. Yep, you can see the difference here between Marcin and a lot of the other riders out there. Extremely streamlined,
very good, high-quality position there for time trialing. His suit, there is no bog standard suit on this man here. You could see the way that the material, the orientation of the panels across the shoulder and the sleeves is very important, because that's the first part that hits the air, the first part of the suit certainly, and the way that it was stitched. It's got, I think we call them smart seams.
Smart seams.
Smart seams, yeah. It's just the way that it trips. Yeah, it's almost like having spoilers and splitters on racing cars. Obviously, you're going at slightly slower speeds, but it still all adds up. And what it does, what you're trying to do, is keep the air attached to the body as far around the back as possible. Because as soon as the air detaches, that's what slows you down. So basically, it will trick the air into following round, especially around the tops of your arms, around your biceps, onto your triceps. As opposed to Viti here, who doesn't really have any sleeves at all. So there's a little bit of a loss here, and certainly something that the Spaniards could work on.
Well, interesting to note the different techniques, the different clothing, everything that happens to make a time trialist fast. Emmanuel Viti has started now for Spain. This is test home of Eritrea. Heading to this first intermediate time split. The leader there is Maxim Averin of Azerbaijan, a time of 18 minutes 8.39 at the opening time split, which is at 13.6 kilometers. But Bagdonas now has gone through significantly faster. 17 minutes 4.13, an average speed of just under 48 kilometers an hour. 47.8 for Bagdonas, a tough bike rider who we mentioned earlier, stage winner in the Tour of Britain, winner of Anpos Ras, and setting the tempo for everyone else to beat out here in the desert in Qatar, as we wait to find out what the next few riders will do. I expect to see Ryan Mullen go pretty quick, and then I expect to see Marcin Biablowski go quick as well.
Yeah, here you can just see the sweat. I mean, coming out of that, you know, that aerodynamic helmet, your head is encased, and no airflow, as little airflow as possible around that area, but the sweat coming off the rider's chin there.
Wow, Jascha Sütterlin is starting. This rider is a member of the Movistar team, a 23-year-old rider, bronze medalist in the Team Time Trial World Championships last year. One of the main key members of that Team Time Trial squad that have, including him, Alex Dowsett, Jonathan Castroviejo, and the other Movistar riders who are in that squad. And Sütterlin is a very good time trialist, riding here, of course, in his German colours. Martin, and these flags certainly fluttering very, very strongly now in this starting area.
Yeah, moving about, aren't they, under the wind? But the Germans are going good. We know they've got pretty good good morale, and this could very well be a good benchmark for Tony Martin. He'll get some information from his teammate, the teammate who is coming back into form. We know he was third in NECO individual time trial a couple of weeks ago, so we know he's going to be there or thereabouts in terms of form. Whether it's good enough to get himself up there, but he's given himself the best chance possible form-wise.
Yeah, the Germans in very, very good form after the win the other day. And so we'll see whether that can translate to some good morale in the squad. They certainly seem to be a pretty relaxed team as far as my experience of seeing them around the hotel is concerned. There doesn't seem to be any stress in that squad whatsoever. Sütterlin, of course, a member of that Movistar team who do an awful lot of team time trial training. They think about the kit and the clothing that they wear. Andrei Grifko is arriving at this intermediate split point, and he looks to be going extremely quickly. Andrei Grifko of the Ukraine racing up here to this first split. Bagdonas set the tempo with 17 minutes 4.13, but Andrei Grifko goes faster by 16.5 seconds, 48.593 kilometers an hour as he makes that swooping right-hand turn and goes out on the rest of the course.
Yeah, very good start there by Grifko, but as we've seen in previous races, it's a decent indication, the early time checks, but as we've seen, it's that, you know, it's not over till it's over, but that final time check is obviously the all-important one on the finish line. And we've seen so many riders who have gone out, they've been right there amongst the leaders within a handful of final section of the race. I mean, we've got less time checks on the route on this course, but as opposed to the others. But once they go, they really do start to lose time at the end. Again, it just goes back to your pace judgment. It's crucial, so important.
The first rider to start here for the Netherlands is Jos van Emden. And Jos van Emden is 31 years of age, a stage winner in the Eneco Tour, a stage winner in the Stur Electro Tour as well. That's a good look there at the clock that the riders see. Van Emden just glancing across to see where his car is, just making sure it's there. And we... there, isn't it?
Yeah, quick look and say, see it. Probably not before. And that, you know, that's the other thing you've got to bear in mind is, you know, without giving any of these riders a curse of the commentator, so I won't name anybody, but everybody will be wanting, as we've seen on a couple of occasions, there haven't been too many mechanicals, and also the dreaded puncture, especially in the rear wheel. We've seen one certainly this week where the time trial bikes, the setup is normally a little bit different. Standard road bike, obviously part of the road bike is being able to change the wheels, swap the wheels in and out, especially the rear wheel. It's important, but the mechanics of a time trial bike means that the wheel can often, the rear wheel certainly, can often be a lot harder to get out the back. So we don't want to be seeing any of that, as Ryan Mullen proving that you know, this little clump of riders that we've got going out, you know, over a 10-minute period, certainly some good high-quality riders, and Mullen proving that.
Yeah, Ryan Mullen, what a great opening, 13.6 kilometres by Ryan Mullen, the young Irish rider. 16 minutes, 13.56, an average speed of over 50 kilometres an hour, 50.290 kilometres an hour by Ryan Mullen, the rider who finished silver medalist in the World Championships as an under-23 rider. He really made his name as a time trialist. He was signed by Cannondale Drapac, but he's gone very, very well. Now, that's a good comparison here for Marcin Biablowski to benchmark himself again. But this is Maxim Belkov, who's coming up to this same point at the intermediate time split, and it looks like Belkov, just as you said, Rob, more noted as a climber, is going to be well outside the time of Ryan Mullen, and I wonder whether a lot of riders are going to be outside the time of Ryan Mullen, because that is a very, very fast opening phase.
It is.
50.2 kilometres an hour.
Yeah, very quick. But again, just to reiterate, you know, the opening time is, you know, it's important if you want to be there up in the running in the final few kilometres and obviously across the finish line. But if you overcook it, you really will pay for that later on in the race, and you will suffer. That said, if you go out too easy and you lose a little bit too much time, you know, if you going into that second time check at 26.4 kilometres and you're still around 30-40 seconds off, it just means you will still be fatiguing, even if you're holding something back. But, you know, it's very difficult then to try and accelerate in the final stages.
This is the first rider we've seen in these championships from Qatar, Afif, and gets a great welcome from his fans there at the start line. The Qatari rider, nice to see. We were supposed to have a couple of them yesterday in one of the events, but they didn't take to the start. It's great to see Abdullah now taking to this World Championship, and it must be a great experience to be here in this time trial, riding for your home country in your home country. Yeah,
I mean, you know, whatever the result here for Abdullah, I think it's fair to say that his performance will be elevated somewhat on a personal front for him if he can keep control of it. It doesn't always pay to be in front of a home crowd because sometimes you go out and you get a little bit get a bit excited, but certainly the conditions shouldn't be of a problem for him. He should be fairly used to this kind of weather. But yeah, it's always nice to be able to perform. And you know, certainly most of the riders I know, and from personal experience, very proud to represent your own country in, you know, your country in your own on your own shores.
Well, we'll keep an eye on Abdullah and see how he's doing along the route. He wears number 45 today in this time trial. This is the men's individual time trial to decide the world champion. The most wins in this is by Fabian Cancellara, who's won on 4 different occasions. Tony Martin, 3 wins. Michael Rogers, 3 wins. And we see Reto Hollenstein about to reach the first intermediate time split. Going to be outside the time of Ryan Mullen. Can be around about the 16:45, maybe 16:50 by the time he crosses the line. 16:48.41. Average speed under 48, just on 48.5 kilometres an hour. The oldest winner of this time trial ever was Bradley Wiggins, 34 years and 149 days.
Yeah, back in 2014 in Ponferrada, just ahead of Tony Martin and Dumoulin. That's Dumoulin's only medal at World Championships. But certainly one of the pre-race favourites, you would imagine, the Dutch rider coming into this. And I think wants a little bit of retribution from Rio, doesn't he?
He does, yeah.
That silver medalist. I think he was the out-and-out favourite, but it was Cancellara, who isn't here. There are 4 previous medalists from World Championships in this field. Right at the back end, obviously Kirienka, Dumoulin, Tony Martin, as we've already said, 6 times a podium. And Taylor Phinney, the American rider, he was silver in 2012. Had a big accident, almost a career-threatening, career-ending accident. I think the week he actually won the American Time Trial Championships, broke his leg, and he's on the comeback trail.
He is. He's on the comeback trail. He's signed for Cannondale Drapac for next season, switching from the BMC racing team over to them for next season, which will be an interesting move, going from BMC to, which is a USA registered team, but predominantly more Swiss than it is American, but going to a pure American team with Cannondale. It'll be interesting to see how he responds to that.
Yeah, Taylor, you know, obviously a huge talent, but you know, just obviously not. I think it's fair to say it knocked the edge off of his potential, didn't it, with that accident? But yeah, you know, he was hoping to end. I know that his quotes would be, "If we can win the world title last week in the team time trial for BMC, that would have been the cherry on the cake." Unfortunately, it didn't quite happen for him, but he goes away with a silver medal.
Looking here at Jos van Emden, the Dutch rider, continuing with this time trial. The fastest rider on the course so far, we know, is Ryan Mullen of Ireland. He is the rider we're concerned about right now, but we'll wait and see what happens when the likes of Biablowski and Sutherland, those sort of riders, reach that intermediate time check. Also this rider, Jos van Emden. We'll see how they compare to the time of Ryan Mullen, who looks to be riding very strongly indeed.
Yeah, this first intermediate time check that comes up at 13.6. Here we can see it as a Norwegian rider. Lingen just comes up to that. They then go through it, and then it's a right-hand turn here, and this is then that long, straight, open section. And we can see that actually the wind, there isn't too much there. You could just see the branches in the trees on the left. So it's fairly still out on that section there in the you know, that long straight section as they come down towards the circuit here down at the Pearl.
I guess if the wind's going to blow like this, as it is out here at the weekend, that can totally change how the road race is, because if there's any crosswinds, this race will be very different. Yeah,
from a viewer's point of view, from our point of view, I think we're hoping for and rubbing our hands for a little bit of wind.
Yeah,
you know, it won't need too much either, because it's so open out there. But yeah, that's the thing. Yes, it's pan flat, but if you can get some wind whipping up, which we haven't really had at the moment, it can cause havoc in the peloton.
This is Sultan Asiri of Saudi Arabia, 5th in the Tour of Egypt, just rolling off the start ramp to get underway. And we're waiting for the arrival of the next riders at the first intermediate time split. A few riders have reached 26.4 now, and the fastest time so far is 33:33:22. That's a nice tidy number. by Redi Halijaj, who is the rider from Albania, setting the standard, but I expect to see the times there get a lot quicker when we see Ryan Mullen arrive there. This is a series of Saudi Arabia just making his way out on the course.
Yeah, again, one of the riders, we've, varying equipment out there, and, position is key. The body's position on the bike to being able to go fast. There's a balance between power and efficiency, aerodynamic efficiency, but it's fairly capable now to have a very good balance of an extremely powerful position and being tucked in, hidden away, trying to hide away from that wind. As there we get a. Oh, now that's not what you want. We saw it a couple of days ago, didn't we? Was it yesterday, where we had one of the riders lose a bottle on the speed bumps on the circuit. Now here we go. This is going to be. Oh, now then.
Wow.
So he's down on the Irishman. Now, does that mean that that the Polish rider here, Marcin, is he's pacing himself well, and that Ryan Mullen has indeed actually gone out there too quick?
Yeah.
30 seconds, that's a big surprise.
That is a big surprise, considering how powerful Marcin Biablowski is. And he takes a bottle as he went round that corner as well. Interesting that some of the riders are doing that. Maybe just getting a bottle, cooling themselves down, and then not putting it on the bike, which is exactly what he did then. Yeah,
well, he's already got one in the bike, but I think it's probably just a backup measure. And we have seen one or two here. We're going to get... there you can just see, we were talking about the sand. Well, there was a bit of sand and gravel, and he was right there on the inside, wasn't he?
He was.
That was a little bit sketchy there for Van Emden.
I thought he was going to come off then. That was very, very close. He was concentrating hard, but the bike kicking all over the place. I'm really surprised by the... ride there of Marcin Biablowski. Maybe it is pacing 48.795, but Ryan Mullen, 50.2 kilometres an hour. That's a great opening section by the Irishman.
It is. It's a big, fast opener. But Marcin Biablowski, the Polish rider, certainly looks to be in control of his ride, not fighting it too much. Looked, very comfortable, very calm. Maybe that's just because he's not actually going quick enough, maybe. But, still a long way to go.
This is the next rider to reach this intermediate time split. This is VT, rides for the Movistar team, and riding here for Spain, coming up to this intermediate time split now. Going to be way down on the time of Ryan Mullen. Fifth fastest, 16:52.71. But let's not discount Mullen. The standard of time trialling he has, and maybe this is his moment to just really show what he's all about at elite level. He's never been given the chance before. He's been a young rider. He's been at under 23 level.
No pressure.
No, exactly.
The only pressure really on himself. But we're seeing a VT there just losing 39 seconds. Top 10 in Paris-Roubaix, so maybe he was hoping there'd be a bit more cold, damp and cobbles for him to ride over.
I don't think he's going to get that today. Here is Grifko. 30.59.45 goes top of the leaderboard. His average speed now 51.112 kilometres an hour. That's pretty impressive. He's accelerated from 48.5 to 51.112.
Yeah, that's, and I think that a lot of that is the fact of that big straight. That time check comes right at the end of that long straight section.
Wow, look at the arrival now of Ryan Mullen. What a ride this young rider's doing. Ryan Mullen of Ireland, he is going to go through the intermediate time split 55 seconds faster than Andre Grifko, with an average speed of 52.688 kilometres an hour.
That's big. That really is big, and that's around nearly 3 kilometres an hour quicker than the average of one of the team of the last team in the men's team time trial. So he's quicker than 6 guys at the moment.
That is
all on his own.
All on his own. That is very, very impressive. So the rider really we're concerned about is Ryan Mullen of Ireland. He is the rider setting the standard for all the other riders to beat, and he has got a background in time trialing. You can see by his position he's worked really, really hard on it. We haven't had many shots of him yet, but I'm sure we will get some because he is the rider who is blazing a trail for everyone else. Now, having said this road is flat, this shows you that it isn't. It's just dragging slightly uphill as we look at Jos van Emden, but Mullen is looking absolutely supreme.
Well, I tell you, if he can keep this kind of average to the end, he would have been top 10 in the men's team time trial.
Will he?
Yeah.
Do you think
It's a
that's
different
possible?
day, different conditions.
But is that possible?
I think the average speed will certainly dip off just a little bit in the final, on the final lap, certainly final loop round here to the finish.
This rider about to get into the first few hundred meters of the ride, and it's the Albanian rider Uja Chupa, and rides for Albania, the national time trial champion. Just settling into the rhythm to get underway. Those of you wanting to know riders who are coming up, Konstantin Switsov is going to start in just 3 minutes' time. Gatis Smukalis, also Yves Lampiet of Belgium, Stephen Cummings of Great Britain, Ramonas Navadauskas of Lithuania. They're the riders who are coming up shortly. Certainly within the next 10 minutes or so, you will see all of those riders take to the race start. Out here on the course then, Jos van Emden is catching the rider in front of him. He's catching the Eritrean rider, Mekaseb Debesay. But he's got a lot to do here, but he could be setting the standard. Ryan Mullen's time, 16:13:56, is Jos van Emden now going to show us just how he is accelerating on the course. This could be very well, he's managed to pace this very well. Look at that, Jos van Emden, 16:14:22, and he goes through there with the time at 0.66 of a second slower than Ryan Mullen at the first intermediate time split.
Well, it's all starting to shape up nicely in this early part of the race.
Next rider to take to the start will be the Greek rider, Polykronos Ortaskis, the national road race champion. Is about to get started, just the last few stretches for the Greek rider. And the next rider here arriving and coming towards the finish of today's time trial is Sylvain Hardy. The Moroccan rider is going to set the standard for everyone else to beat. Has been riding a respectable time so far, the 8th fastest time to 26.4 kilometres for Sylvain Hardy of Morocco. And we'll see what sort of time he's going to produce here when we get to the finishing line. The first rider to complete the course. Yep,
big, long, lonely ride there, wasn't it? Just over 52, but you know, it's a good, solid time, I think, by Hardy. And he'll be looking forward to this line. It won't come quick enough for him, I don't feel. Just hits the dip there with around 150 metres to go, and then it's just a very slight drag up here to the finish. Certainly not a drop down to the little chainring and and dance on the pedals, but just a bit of a push up to the finish, and they're just gulping the air in. Oh,
that was a tough finish there.
Short and sharp, that, wasn't it?
Exactly. Sylvain Hardy of Morocco completes the course there. Sets the standard for everyone else to beat. 52:31.63 was the time of Sylvain Hardy of Morocco here at the finishing line.
And here we've got Van Emden, second in the recent Eneco Tour individual time trial, so we know that he is on form. And he's showing that right up there with Ryan Mullen at that first time check. Now on this big, long, straight run in there, you can see big open section of road there, and you can see the heat just coming up off the road.
Yeah, he's keeping his concentration well. He's the second fastest rider, 50.256 kilometres an hour. Ryan Mullen 50.290, but we know that Mullen has accelerated into the second phase of this ride, 26.4 kilometers an hour. And Van Emden looks to be tracking very, very well indeed. Look at that, round about the 53 kilometers an hour mark. It's amazing how these riders never look like the big effort is being put in. It's just metronomic, isn't it? Just the legs up and down, nice and easy. Just looks like he's out for a nice steady ride.
It all looks nice and calm and serene, doesn't it, from here? And you can see he'd be a fairly decent pursuiter on the track if he can hold that line, just sat obviously on the painted line and feeling that that's the place he wants to be. Obviously a little bit smoother than perhaps the tarmac on the road, but the only issue is every time you come off the edge of that is obviously a little bit of a ridge, and that will just scrub a little bit of speed off on the side of the tyre as you get caught from left to right. But there you can see every time he gets up onto that painted line, probably won't be seeing too many riders doing that, but we'll have to wait and see. He's obviously been feels that's the right one for him, because he would have been riding out on this course and trying it.
This is Zupa of Albania, wearing number 37, continuing with his time trial. Just to update though, Ryan Mullen still the leader at 26.4 kilometers. Reto Hollenstein is now second fastest time there. The Swiss rider goes through 23.36 seconds slower than the time of Ryan Mullen of Ireland. Back to the start line then. This is Elkin, an Azerbaijan rider who's just rolling down the start ramp to get underway. Coming up shortly, Gatis Smukalis, Yves Lampert, Stephen Cummings, Ramonas Navadauskas, all very, very good time trialists. Stephen Cummings, what an incredible year that rider has had, as we see the arrival of the next rider here at the finish line. Bonaventure, who was Imana, riding for the Rwanda team. The time to beat 52:22:17. That won't happen. So we'll go second fastest to the Moroccan rider Hadi at the finishing line. This is the Belgian rider we just saw a quick glimpse of there, who is about to start. Yves Lampert, a world champion of the team time trial, a member of the Quick Step team, who won the team time trial just a few days ago with Tony Martin, another member of that team as well.
Yeah, let's hope he's been able to shake that ride out of his legs. Big effort there from a few days ago in that team time trial.
How do they do that though? How do they recover?
It's part and parcel of being a pro bike rider, isn't it? You know, the amount of racing days that that they have, and in fact some of them may very well have struggled a little bit in the team time trial, but that's their opener. You know, it just opens your legs up, it gets your system going, and you know, you see it. They may very well be tired and fatigued, but actually once you get on the bike, your legs start to come in, and you see it. You know, in stage races, you know, riders get better and better and better. Off the bike, you're fatigued. You need it almost airlifting out of bed at the hotel every morning. But then as soon as you cock your leg over the bike, you really do open up. And,
you're okay.
you feel good. Yeah, but you know, it's part and parcel, and the guys train for that. Yeah, and there we go. There's your man, Steve Cummings.
He's getting himself ready for this individual time trial. He's got the ice vest on and the skin suit. He's putting a bit of ice down the neck as well to make sure that he stays with the core temperature as cool as he possibly can. But this man's had a great season, hasn't he?
Incredible season. Helped a little bit by that man there holding his shoulders. Aldis, he's the swan year for Dimension Data. He's come there with Mark Cavendish. In fact, he used to look after the pair of us in the 6 days.
Did he?
Yeah, that's when we started to get to know Aldis. Very good guy. Very caring. I mean, that's part of his job. But yeah, Cummings finally got his victory in the Tour of Britain a few weeks ago. He was second a number of years ago, but finally got that win, and yeah. Second stage win in the Tour as well this year, 2 years on the trot. Yeah. Again, we mentioned it the other day about the morale of riders, and specifically in that squad Dimension Data. Steve Cummings is one of those guys. That's what he revels off. You put too much pressure on him, he cracks, he crumbles. He doesn't like it. He almost butts up against it and says, no, in that case, I'm not doing it. You've got to let him, you know, you need to give Steve Cummings, he's one of those riders, you just need to give him a little bit of space, a little bit of room, and, you know, let him go out there and do it off his own back, and obviously help and guide him. And he's absolutely loving it on the squad and really is performing well.
Here's the arrival of Marcin Biablowski. It's not his day so far. At the second intermediate time split, he's going to come through. Ryan Mullen, the Irish rider, is the rider we really want to be seeing right now, because he is the rider who is blazing the trail on this road. Marcin looks fast, but he's 30 seconds down, and in fact, he's no Ryan Mullen at this point than he was at 13.6 kilometres.
He's actually a couple of seconds slower, and he's dropped a little bit more there, which is quite surprising. But again, is he holding something in reserve, and can he continue with this average speed right the way through, as opposed to Mullen, who could very well crack, especially once we start getting jumping in and out of one or two of the bends on this final circuit on the run-in.
Well, Jos van Emden is the Dutch rider who is rolling along here, trying to keep the pace as high as possible. And we've had 3 riders finish so far, but Ryan Mullen is the rider that we want to see how he does, because he is the fastest rider on the course so far. 30 minutes 3.83 at that 26.4 kilometre time split. He'll be very proud of this ride if he can continue like this. The arrival then of the Albanian rider, ready, Halaj, who is about to finish and could set the fastest time here at the finishing line. Sylvain Hardy set the standard 52.22.17. This is a long, steady run-in to the finishing line, but he didn't get out of the Rob, just stay in the aero tuck, and 43.88 seconds faster by the Albanian rider, and an average speed 46.477 kilometres an hour. A nice ride there by the Albanian. I don't think he'll be in the medals, but he's got time to be at the top of the leaderboard.
Yeah, just for a little bit. Seemed fairly pedestrian, didn't it, for him? Like I say,
yeah.
he didn't get out of the saddle. He was in a big gear, just grinding that gear up, that little short drag up towards the finish, crossed the line, and didn't really have too much expression on his face. So I'm wondering if he's left a little bit out on the road there, and a little bit too much in reserve.
Yves Lampert about to start, a world champion of the team time trial with the Ethics Quick Step team. So he knows exactly what this course is like, and he knows how to ride it fast, because they were supremely quick the other day. What was the average speed again of that Ethics Quick Step team at the finishing line?
Oh, it was only 56.4.
Is that all?
Yeah,
okay.
Just I don't think we'll be seeing any averages like that today. I certainly hope not.
I can't imagine we would. The arrival then of Bagdonas, and he is heading now to the finishing line. He is going to set the fastest time, no doubt about that. Behind him is Averin of Azerbaijan, but is Bagdonas 48.31.2, just underneath 50 kilometres an hour, 49.482. Bagdonas sets the standard by over 3 minutes on the next rider, as Steve Cummings, the British rider, the first of 2 British riders, gets ready for this individual time trial. Notice he's got these things on his elbows. Is that because he's crashed, or is that to cool him down? I saw someone wearing them the other day.
Probably been falling off, knowing Steve. Yeah, could have gone down. It's one of those points. It's one of the first contact points, unfortunately. When you go down, you can see a few scuffs just above that. So yeah, trying to keep the sun off that. And obviously, you know, if you've had a crash on that part, and then you're on a tri-bar, that's where you rest. So you know, you've got to be very painful. And so yeah, keep that covered up.
Stage winner in the Tour de France ×2. Stage winner Italiano Adriatico. Stage winner in the Vuelta a España, in the Tour of Beijing, in the Dauphiné. Winner of Tour of Britain. And he had that time when he was with BMC, which was relatively quiet. But since then, Steve Cummings is building a palmares that any bike rider in the world would be very, very proud of.
Yeah, I was with him out in Italy, actually, when he was coming to the end of that BMC contract, and he still was looking for somewhere to renew. And, you know, for so many riders, you know, this kind of time of year here, you know, just post-Tour de France going into here, you've got riders who, you know, they've already signed. Some have got 1 or 2 contracts on the table, and there are those, like Steve was, without a contract out, and it can be quite desperate. And you've got to, you know, you're away from home. He was based, you know, with the Liverpool, based in Tuscany, in Quarata, in Italy, and it was Dimension Data actually who came and took him on, and well, they haven't looked back since.
Look at this ride by Ryan Mullen. This is the rider we wanted to see on the course. He hits the line now. Ryan Mullen goes fastest by 1 minute 13 seconds. His average speed over 52 kilometers an hour by Ryan Mullen. That is a very, very impressive performance by Ryan Mullen. That is an incredible ride. Ramonas Navadauskas is about to start for Lithuania. Stage winner in the Tour de France and Giro d'Italia. 3rd in the World Championship road race in 2015. But Rob, that ride by Ryan Mullen is an exceptional ride by that young time trialist. Well over 52k an hour. 46 minutes and 4 seconds for 40k.
46.04 in. He would have been top 10 in the team time trial with that performance.
That's an exceptional ride
for now.
Yeah,
But yeah, absolutely amazing ride by the Irishman, and you know, hats off to him. And I think he could very well be sat in that #1 hot seat for a little while.
Yep, absolutely. Because looking out on the course, so he just toppled Andre Grifko, who set the fastest time. The top 3 are Mullen, Grifko, and Bagdonas at this moment in time. But he could be there for a long, long time. But we'll wait and see what happens out on the intermediate time splits. We know that Jos van Emden is riding strongly and, in fact, has gone faster than Ryan Mullen by 2 seconds at the intermediate time split we're hearing. So Ryan Mullen could well be seeing his lead toppled by Jos van Emden as we take a look here at the rider wearing number 29, and this is Yves Lampiet, who's also going quicker than Ryan Mullen, the Ireland rider. But yeah, you're right, he can sit there and he can enjoy being in the hot seat. Another rider starting then, Jack Bauer of New Zealand, a rider, Rob, that you know very well, because when he signed one of his first pro teams, you were involved in it.
Yep, and God, that boy can eat. He certainly used to be able to. He had to stay out of house and home for the first week when he came over to the UK. But yeah, Jack Bauer, he just won, actually, we'd signed him, and he just then, about a week after that, won the New Zealand Road Race Championships back in 2010. He was 10th in Rio, in the road race, in the Olympic road race, and he had a stage win in the Tour of Britain as well only a few weeks ago. Fantastic stage win from I think it was a 5 or 6 man break that just got caught on the line, the back end of that break, but Jack, he held on to take the sprint victory from that group. So yeah, again, another rider on good form, and a really, really good guy. I think he's just signed for Ethics, and yeah, a fantastic guy. And a good quality, you know, a ruler, big, you know, a good time trialist, but someone who's very good to sit on the front of the peloton and do a good work for your teammates.
Yeah, you can just put him on the front, ask him to bring a breakaway back, and he can do. Here's a rider who's been a world champion at under 23 and junior level. This Australian rider, Luke Durbridge, rolling down the start ramp now, wearing number 25. Big expectations for him to do a good ride here in Qatar in the World Championships.
Yeah, good form again at the moment in a 2-up time trial. Certainly, he won the Duo Normand for the 2nd time only a few weeks ago. He's been national time trial champion of Australia 3 times as well. You see him just getting into that position, nice tuck position. You know, very, very different to you know, some of the others. You know, this is the way that the time trial position is going now, where your hands actually come up your elbows are quite high. You know, back a few years ago, it was get the bars down as low as possible and, you know, really hang off the front of the saddle and get down. Lower is better. But now you see time trial bikes where the bars are actually fairly level. I ended up with my bars almost at the same height as my saddle, actually. Certainly where your hands go, as just a little bit of a misjudgment there. And not quite got that right as Nevadauskas. But he got away with it. But yeah, the bars, you know, and your hands come right up towards you. Here, another one, you know, fairly high, big stacks from the cow horn bars at the bottom, your start bars where the brake levers are down, and then you bring your elbows up and your shoulders roll in, you tuck your head down, and it's just a more efficient way of riding. Certainly for most riders, it doesn't suit everybody, but you have to get that, and you have to train in it as well, especially for when you're spending 3/4 of an hour or so longer than that on the bike under this duration and duress on the bike.
Reto Hollenstein, second fastest time as he hits the line, so he goes now into the hot seats. Reto Hollenstein. So it's Mullen, Hollenstein, and then behind Hollenstein is Grifko. Anderson finishes fourth fastest for Denmark, shakes his head. Just over 48 minutes for the Danish rider. Just trying to recover after that ride.
He's had a hard ride out there, hasn't he?
He has.
Yeah, very difficult. And there, you know, just that shot, you know, hold that position there for Hollenstein up all the way across the line and power your way up in the most efficient way possible.
This is back out on the bike with Jos van Emden, who is continuing to set some good times, but he seems to be fading a little bit on the time of Ryan Mullen. So Mullen's obviously held his position all the way through.
He has. We've seen this on quite a number of occasions where riders are right up there with the previous time checks, and then in the latter stages when the heat starts to get to you, the fatigue starts to build, you know, you feel full of lactic acid, and you know, you really do, your body just breaks down. And I think you know, it's magnified a little bit more with these hot humid conditions, as we just get you know, nice negotiation there of roundabout. You know, there's a lot of building work obviously going on, dust being thrown up all over the place. You can just see a little bit on the road, especially on the left-hand side of the road here, but fortunately it just seems to be embedded within the tarmac, and you know, it's not really sat on the top there.
There's the split times, gives you the reference to Ryan Mullen. And it looks like Van Emden kicked on a little bit through 25 kilometres, but now he's fading away a little bit. 6 seconds now, 8 seconds slower to this point in this individual time trial. Not long until he goes onto the Pearl and runs in towards the finishing line, where the time to beat is 46 minutes 4.74 for the 40 kilometres, and he's making his way on there now. Some of the roadworks that are going on around the Pearl in this area to do with the new metro link, which is going to take everyone around Qatar, and that's all being built, and a lot of building work also for the World Cup of Football.
Well, I think bearing in mind this whole area wasn't here, it was sea around 10, 12 years ago or so they'll probably have it done by the end of next week.
More
at that rate.
This is the arrival then of Vermeulen of the United States of America. They had a great day yesterday with Brandon McNulty and Amber Naben taking the medals in both those individual time trials, and Vermeulen hits the line. Fourth fastest, very respectable, 47 minutes 57 for the American rider, who will go into fourth place. And we'll see where he finishes by the end of the afternoon. But those of you who are just joining us, the top places right now: Ryan Mullen of Ireland, Reto Hollenstein in second place, Andre Grifko is in third place right now. Coming up shortly, the riders who will be starting include Primoz Roglic, Nicholas Roach will also be starting soon, and also Alex Dowsett, who will be taken to the start line relatively soon for Great Britain. He's just seeing his bike being measured as we see the arrival here of Vegard Stake Lengen, who rides for Norway. Haven't seen him out on the course at all. He's going to be outside the time of Ryan Mullen, but stops the clock now, and the time is 47:27.00 for Vegard Stake Lengen, just outside the medal, so doesn't have to sit in the hot seats for a while.
Yeah, big effort there. Again, up the finishing straight, and you can just see these riders as they cross the line. You know, sometimes it just can't come quick enough. They come round a bend. They can't actually see the finish line till around about 200, 250 metres to go or so. There's a bit of a breeze just now building a little bit further down here than the finish line, just coming across. But, you know, as soon as you finish, it's get the fluid down you.
Yeah.
If you can stomach it.
Primoz Roglic underway then for Slovenia. This is an interesting rider, Rob. Rider who won a stage of the Giro d'Italia last May, or May just gone. A rider who was a speed skater, turned his attention to being a bike rider to very, very good effect, and could produce a winning performance here in this individual time trial. Certainly, if you can translate the form of the Giro d'Italia, could put himself into the medals somehow. Yeah,
6th in the Eneco Tour in the individual time trial a couple of weeks ago. So he's certainly got some good form. And again, this is a really good shot there of that position with your higher hands. And there he's not playing the bagpipes. I don't think he's got any Scottish blood in him. But no, that's his hydration system there, just keeping topped up. And there you can see a good 2 or 3 gulps on that. He's got a bottle as well down in the frame. And there again, there's the pipe coming down there for Jeremy Roy.
Jeremy Roy then racing into the finishing line and looking to beat the time of Vermeulen. That goes past. He's cruising here to the finish, but he's going to be outside, I think, the top 5 riders. May just sneak into the top 6 and beat the Danish rider. 48.11, 5-1 for Jeremy Roy of France.
Yep, just under 50 kilometres an hour. Let's not forget that he missed his feed as well.
This is the arrival then of Marcin Biablowski, the Polish rider. I think he's going to be disappointed with this effort. He's going to hit the line now. He'll go into the hot seats. 3rd fastest time, 46.58.29 for the rider from Poland, one of the riders from One Pro Cycling. But I think he expected a little bit more of himself today in this time trial. 3rd fastest, and I don't think he'll be on those hot seats for too long. Ryan Mullen, meanwhile, very, very happy with that performance today.
Yeah, I think Biablowski, the Polish rider, left his legs in Somerset a few weeks ago when he did that 44.04 in that 25-mile time trial. The day after doing a 16.35 for 10-mile time. Obviously, people listening in the UK, they'll be able to, you know, they'll get their heads around that. For anybody else, believe me, that's quick. I mean, that's quicker than Alex Dowsett has ever gone. He's had the records. You know, you're talking about people knocking handfuls of seconds off, minutes in fact, of people like Graham O'Brien, Chris Boardman back in the years. Obviously technology has come on, but we know that Marcin has been going extremely well. So yeah, he will be devastated with that, I think.
Yeah, I think he will. And just shows you getting your preparation absolutely right is so difficult. He may have overcooked it by a couple of weeks and just ended up the form dropping off when he's got here to Qatar. It's all about timing,
you know, it's all about timing. That's the thing. You know, it's no good doing your PBs a few weeks out or a couple of weeks after. It's all about on the day, and that is part of it. You know, that's part and parcel of, you know, being a great athlete, you know, having great coaches around you who understand your form. And the thing is as well, you come out and you have to be, you know, does the course suit you? Does the conditions suit you? Do they, you know, are they for or against you? You know, ultimately some of it can be out of your hands. And but once you're on the start line, if you can get yourself in the best shape possible, and then you've just got to let the clock do the, you know, let your legs do the talking and let the clock reflect that.
Yves Lampaert is not far away here from the first intermediate time split. The time to beat is still Ryan Mullen with 16.13.56. He's quite a long way from this intermediate time split, this world champion of the team time trial. And as we wait to see where he's going to be, I think he's going to be just inside safely the time of Marcin Biablowski. It is Yves Lampaert who crosses the line now, 16.22.87, 3rd fastest time. A rider who knows just how fast you need to go. But right now, he's got a little bit of work to do. He's 9 seconds down on Ryan Mullen, but a respectable start to this time trial. We go back out here with the rider who is coming into the finishing line. This will be Emanuele Erviti, and looks to be just outside the top 8 riders on the completion of this time trial. So Erviti looks good, but 9th fastest, and will fade away down the standings as things continue and we get some of the bigger named riders of the time trial coming into the finish. Riders who are starting soon. Coming up, we'll have Manuel Kinziato, Stefan Kung, Alex Dowsett, Taylor Finney, Edvald Bosenhagen, as we go back out on the road with Luke Durbridge, 14 seconds down on Ryan Mullen. I think if these riders are getting their time checks, Rob, it's going to play on their minds a little bit if they're told, because Mullen is gone extremely quickly.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a surprise, and maybe not to some of these riders. You know, they've been riding with Mullen in many of the races, and they'll obviously see the sort of form that that he has had. You know, he is the Irish national champion from this year. He won the road race last year as well, and again rode the Tour of Britain a few weeks ago, 9th in that individual time trial. Slightly different kind of parcours to this, admittedly, but we know that he's got the form. But I still think it'll be a bit of a surprise to many. So yeah, you start to hear that over the race radio if that's what you're getting from your team car, and but at least they know that whereabouts they are to him, and then you just gauge your effort.
Kinziato, the Italian rider, world champion of the team time trial on 2 occasions. I keep saying Roglic was a speed skater, but he was a ski jumper. That's what I mean to say. I apologise to Petra, who's reminded me that he was a ski jumper, and a very good ski jumper indeed. So he turned his attention to cycling with very good effect.
Yeah, I mean, any of those kind of sports skiing, or there are a number of cyclists who were former speed skaters, and vice versa. There are some who switch the two, because it's it's very much a similar effort in terms of the suitability of training for the way that your muscles, your leg muscles and your back muscles work. And some people use it, old school training camps, December type, January type training camps for a lot of the old school pro teams was cross-country skiing.
Yeah, exactly. This is Jos van Emden, who now has faded away, Rob, because he was the fastest rider at the 26-kilometre split, and he's going to finish now. And he's going to be the 2nd fastest, but he's going to be 23 seconds down on Ryan Mullen.
That highlights the Ryan Mullen's effort there over the last half, the second half of this race. Yeah, you can see the effort, gulping the air in, the sweat absolutely pouring off.
Wow.
The nose and the chin there, see, just gulping. You see the diaphragm moving up and down, just trying to suck that hot hairdryer air in. Oh,
it's a tremendous effort, isn't it? And it takes a long, long time to recover here. The sweat absolutely pouring off. And there was an interview yesterday, some of the British riders saying that they've never sweat so much. Literally, it just pours out of you. But Navadauskas slower as well by 1 minute 4 seconds. I'm surprised at that. Navadauskas is a great time trialist. He's already been a stage winner in the Giro d'Italia, 3rd in the road race at the World Championships last year, but not producing any speed.
No, well, that's ultimately, it doesn't matter how good you look, and one of the riders who does look good here is Luke Durbridge. He's still kind of there or thereabouts, isn't he, in the ballpark, 20 seconds, holding very good form, and I know he's coming into this with, I think he's got some big expectations.
This is Stefan Kung of Switzerland, an individual pursuit world champion. This rider's very, very quick indeed. Looking at the choice of equipment, he's got no overshoes or anything on. He's just gone with very short socks. A rider who has a tendency to have had some pretty big crashes in the last couple of years. He's very, very quick, and sometimes overcooks it a little bit.
Euro time trial champion from 3 years ago, 2013. So he's got form. Yeah, still only 22 as well, so very early on in his career. But again, another rider, you know, as you would expect, being a former world individual pursuit champion, that he's got a good position on the bike.
Yeah, he's extremely talented. He's got a great position. He looks fantastic on the track. But we've seen him when he's been in winning positions in time trials where he's just taken a risk too many. But hopefully, as a young rider, he's learnt from that, and now he can translate it back into some top speed here on this course today. Coming up shortly, only 14 riders left to take to the start line. Dowsett, Finney, Bosenhagen, Jungels, Cathrovieco, Martin, Dennis, De Moulin, Kirienka, as Luke Durbridge approaches the first intermediate time split. And this rider is one of the fastest time trialists in the world, and he is nowhere near the time of Ryan Mullen of Ireland, who is still top of the leaderboard, fourth fastest, 21 seconds down.
Yeah, just losing a little bit of time here through this middle section. But again, you know, he doesn't look under too much pressure, just sat there, goes for his drink, and just cooling himself off there. Well, if the Aussies are starting to feel warm out there, then you know that you know it's difficult conditions. But obviously, you put some water on you, and then with the wind blowing over you, that air passing over you, you get instantaneous cooling down of your extremities anyway. And a lot of that is a comfort thing. It's good for your head, and you know, it just takes a bit of pressure off you, because you will cook out there. You really will. You know, under this kind of condition, with this weather, the humidity, and the amount of effort, sustained effort, that the riders are having to do with a big plastic pot on your head, basically. Very little, you know, there's that way up. Do you want cooling? Because if you have extra cooling through that helmet, then often that can mean that there's a little bit more drag. But I think under these conditions, you were better off with a very slight amount of air going over your head, because you can see some very funny things that riders will do, and no doubt we'll see it come the weekend in the longer road races, where you do literally cook your head, and you know, some of the decision making can be quite funny.
Well, we can analyse that at the weekend. Samoilo of Belarus about to finish, going to be outside the top riders here, probably around about 14th, 15th place. 14th fastest for Branislav Samoilo of Belarus, completing the course. Yeah, we were talking to David Miller before the start, weren't we? And he said that if you think about time trials normally, you've got trees and you've got a bit of shade and a bit of respite from the heat, but here you don't. You have nothing.
It's completely open. Yeah, very little shade. There's the odd tree. Certainly, we've seen it on the circuit with a little bit of shade, but you're just in and out of it so quick. Here you can see it's so open. There's nothing, and so you've got the heat coming, the sun bouncing down on you, on your back, and then that reflects back up, and you get it straight up in your face. But here again, you know, slightly different position for the Swiss. But here we go.
This
Big
is
man from the States, Taylor.
He is. Great to see him in these World Championships. This rider about to get started. And, of course, a silver medalist before, an under-23 world champion. And you have Taylor Phinney of the United States of America about to get underway. And yesterday, the Americans won both the time trials. Can Taylor Phinney bring another medal to his country?
Well, fingers crossed for him, and certainly there'll be one or two people back at home wishing him well and hoping him, urging him on. Certainly has the potential, but I think he was probably a little bit disappointed with his Olympic Games, to be fair to him. 22nd in that time trial, which you know, he's certainly shown more promise than that. But we have to you know, go back to that injury that he had, an almost career-ending injury only a couple of years ago, that he is still on the comeback trail from, where he broke his leg.
You look the scar he's got on one of his legs. It's absolutely incredible.
Just please stay with us.
Edvald Bosenhagen is about to get started now for Norway. Winner of Ghent-Wevelgem, a stage winner in the Tour de France, winner of Plouay. Another rider who's about to roll down the start ramp, and this rider, of course, we know he's a fantastic time trialist, a great rider to have on the front of a peloton to bring a breakaway back.
Yeah, Edvald. Actually, if you Google Edvald, spell check came back as D-value. Which is pretty much, I think, what he has done over the years.
Yeah.
Showed such good promise early on in his Columbia HTC days.
Yeah.
And, you know, went to Team Sky, and I think he floundered a little bit. Again, he's gone back to Dimensions data. He's had 9 victories this year.
Yeah.
In very good form. His time trialing ability, I'm not so sure. 30th in Rio last month. On this sort of course, yeah, I'm not quite so sure, but he's here, and he's had a good year this year, and he's back. Yeah, he's getting back to his best.
Yeah, the smile was back on his face a few times this season. You could sense the lean years of not winning bike races was preying on him, as we see the arrival of. Sorry about the picture breakup.
As the case
we
may
don't
be.
see the arrival of him. We see a bit of picture breakup. Smukkels was about to arrive then, as we wait for that, but he's not going to trouble the time of Ryan Mullen. How many times are we going to say that this afternoon? No one's troubling him whatsoever right now.
Not yet, but I'm fairly confident that they will later on. I don't think we're going to see the kind of thing that we've seen, especially with the juniors and certainly with the under-23s, where the earlier riders coming in are there all day long, but up to now, it's a really good ride and put pressure on one or two of the others, certainly coming out later on.
This rider then gets started. Victor Campenet, the under-23 European champion in 2013, and was also, I think, Rob, second in the European Championships.
Yep, and also second in the Euros, and also national champion, like you said. So yeah, another rider in form this year. Good quality time trialist. Whether this course will suit him, we'll have to wait and see. As the wind again is just changing a little bit of direction. It's now just coming up a little bit behind the riders, just from the opposite side, and it's more of a crosswind now. If there is still some wind on that long straight section down here towards the final part of the circuit, that wind is starting to just move around a little bit.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
No, that's a bad thing. It would have helped the earlier riders. Certainly Ryan Mullen would have had more of an advantage. If it continues to come round in that direction, then it could very well actually start to come up and across the left-hand shoulder and in towards the face of the riders, which, if it's got, even if it's only 2 or 3 kilometres an hour, that will still have an adverse effect for riders coming later on. But we'll just have to wait and see what happens. I mean, it's very difficult to see if there is any wind on that section because there's just nothing around.
Let's get Johan Le Bon started, a stage winner in the Eneco Tour, twice a national time trial champion. He's from France. Talking about Ryan Mullen's ride, though, he will probably be sitting in the hot seat saying it's about time I had some luck in the World Championships, because every time he's been in with a chance of taking a medal in the under-23s, for example, he ended up riding in totally different conditions to the rider that won it. So he ended up in the pouring rain 1 year, couple of years ago, compared to a rider riding in totally dry roads.
Yeah, sometimes if it's the rain, as long as it doesn't affect with your vision, one of the things you've got to look out for is, generally a more aerodynamic helmet has a visor, but if it rains and you've got conditions like that, obviously you don't really want the visor because your helmet can steam up. But sometimes it can actually help to have a bit of rain if it's a nice flat race. But if it's technical and you've got lefts and rights, obviously that's going to be a massive detriment, because you're going to have to slow down a lot more just to get yourself round those bends, because you overcook it, you go down, then that's it, it's game over for you.
It is. Well, this rider, Yves Lampiet, is out on the course. We are getting ready now for Bob Jongels to start. There is Rowan Dennis, who wants to turn around the disappointment of the Olympic Games. Bob Jungels, the world champion as a junior in 2010. Jungels, the Maglia Bianca, the white jersey of the Giro d'Italia. He had a great ride there. Riding now for Luxembourg, of course, and underway for Bob Jungels.
Yeah, I think Bob Jungels was actually one of those riders who's tipping Tony Martin for the victory today. But that's all going to be out of his mind now. It's just him and his bike, his hands in front of him, and just concentrating on the effort there.
Look how look at that front position as we look from this camera, just going straight through the air.
Yep, hands together, elbows almost together, and you can see it just rolls your shoulders in, and then your head starts to tuck in. And that's the big man himself, 6 times on the podium, 3 times former world champion in this event.
He's all smiles. He's pretty relaxed. Tony Martin, he will be going off in just a few minutes' time. In fact, 5.5 minutes until Tony Martin gets started. And we'll see how he performs against the time of Ryan Mullen, which is still top of the leaderboard at the 13.6 kilometre split, and still the fastest time at the finishing line for the young Irish rider. This is Nelson Oliveira of Portugal, a stage winner in the Vuelta a España, 7th, of course, Rob, in the Rio time trial. A very good time trialist indeed. Yeah,
4th in the Euros. 4 times a national champion, and let's see what the 27-year-old can do out here on this course.
Rolls. He's got all the skin suit materials and the bike that the Movistar team use. It looks like he's got the same manufacturer of the skin suit, looking just at the little touches on it. The arrival of the next rider. This is the Qatari rider, Abdullah. Great to see a Qatar rider now going to complete this World Championship course. And it's not going to be the slowest time by any stretch. Abdullah of Qatar is going to reach the finishing line now. 57 minutes, 36.78. And that's 24th fastest.
It's all relative, isn't it? You know, it doesn't matter how fast you're going, you're still going flat out, and you can see the, you know, just the pain there, pulling all sorts of shapes up the finishing straight, the sweat coming down off the chin, off the nose of the riders.
Only 6 riders left to take to the start. Here's another rider who could win this one, Tom Dumoulin. So the next rider is on the start ramp. Dumoulin really does want to take this victory today. The start then of Matej Bodnar, who likes Qatar, 2nd in the Tour of Qatar in 2015, and a great time trialist from Poland. He knows Biablowski hasn't produced the time trial everyone expected him to do today. I think he's the 4th fastest rider. But Matej Bodnar rolls down the start ramp and is underway.
Yeah, with time trial stage in the 3-day Doha earlier on in the year. This is a little bit different to that day, most definitely.
No doubt about that. Doha doesn't really see temperatures like this ever, does it?
I don't think so. It's been a few million years since it has, I'm sure.
Do tweet us your predictions if you would like to. At RobHales1, at Ant McCrossan is where you can join us. Bodnar going out on this time trial to that right-hand turn. Just looping round before he goes out onto the long straight road down to the Pearl. We're getting no indication that any rider is going quicker than Ryan Mullen right now. So we wait to find out whether Tony Martin, Rowan Dennis, Tom Dumoulin and Vasyl Kirienka can go faster than the Irish rider. Luke Durbridge, Rob, 34 seconds down.
A couple more seconds, you know, very, very deceptive, very difficult to see, you know, because he looks so good on the bike. But obviously speed is, you know, it's the clock that that shows, as we just see Kirienka, defending champion, just sorting his shoes out.
This rider was 4th in the Olympic Games. Jonathan Castroviejo, twice a stage winner in the Vuelta a España. 4th here in 2015. Can he remove this thing of finishing 4th and get himself a medal later on this afternoon? Jonathan Castroviejo, star rider, riding for Spain, gets underway.
Yeah, rider with, you know, quite an extreme position. on his bike. Euro time trial, European time trial champion. Sets himself up just very early on, straight down into position. And, you know, it's all about getting up to speed as quick as you can, and then getting yourself underway and not overcooking it, as we see Yves Lampard just having, well, he's got a bit of a problem there, hasn't he? Trying to get past his minute man, the Canadian.
Hugo Hewler didn't really realise he was there, I don't think. I think he did that out of any intent. He just didn't realise he was in a world of his own. He didn't realise that Lampiat was right behind him. There's the defending champion, the Belarusian. He looks ready for this time trial.
Yeah, he has struggled a little bit in time trials this year, but we've mentioned before, you know, part of the reason why, because he's been looking after his team leaders during stage races. But even so, he did struggle a little bit at the Olympic Games.
Tony Martin is now underway. This is the rider that everyone has said is the race favourite. Everyone is expecting Tony Martin to come up with the goods and produce another world title. He is 3 times a world champion. He won it back-to-back, 11, 12 and 13 before Bradley Wiggins and Vasyl Kirienka took the title. But this man is extremely fast. He looks ready. He looks very lean. As you were mentioning, Rob, he's changed his hand position on the bike. He looks so lean and cutting through the air. Look at the shoulders, the way that they are right in on the head to slice through the air.
Yeah, he's changed that position of his hand position. Unlike this rider here, Campenaerts, his hands are up by his chin. You know, a lot of riders do that. We call it the praying mantis. Tony Martin has opted to go back to his old position, and whether it's a psychological thing or not, but as we just drop back now to the British rider Alex Dowsett, former hour record holder.
Yeah, Alex Dowsett there, a rider who saw his British records taken by Marcin Biablowski, but he looks to be just pushing himself back in the saddle quite a lot right now. Rowan Dennis of Australia about to take to the start. He's got the drinking system down the skin suit, former world record holder and on the hour. And another fantastic bike rider about to now get into the first phase of this time trial. This rider, we know, wants to win without any shadow of a doubt. He wants to turn around the disappointment of that broken aero ski in the Olympic Games when he looked to be heading for a medal, and turn this round to winning the World Championships.
Yeah, had an absolutely disastrous Olympic Games, didn't he, with that left hand ski, as you say, the handlebar there, the tri-bar just came off in his hand. Very, very disappointed for him. But he's here. Can he get retribution? He's, you know, he doesn't mind these conditions, certainly.
This is the rider from Pakistan, Mahmood, who is almost at the finishing line, just over an hour for this ride. Not really any comparison to Ryan Mullen, but Mahmood is about to complete this 40 kilometres in just over 1 hour and 1 minute, heading to the finishing line. 1 hour, 1 minute, 6.02.
Doesn't want to stop, does he? Wants to keep going.
The start then of the penultimate rider. This is Tom Dumoulin, the silver medalist in the Olympic Games, interestingly choosing the sunglasses as opposed to a visor. But Dumoulin really focused here. Gets underway.
Yeah, I think he was extremely disappointed to be beaten by Fabian Cancellara in the Olympic Games. I think he was coming into it, he was the out-and-out favourite, but we've got to bear in mind that he crashed in the final week in the Tour de France back in July and broke his wrist, so which did obviously raise some questions. But going up to that incident, he was by far, I think, the out-and-out favourite, certainly one of those favourites, alongside probably Chris Froome, for a slightly different course, admittedly, with a bit of a climb in it in Rio. This is completely different, but certainly we're looking forward to a big battle between this group of riders here. Obviously, Tony Martin, Tom Dumoulin, Rowan Dennis.
Well, let's see now as we get all the riders on the course. Only one rider left to start, and that will be the defending champion, Vasyl Kirienka, as to what is going to bring us over the coming 40-odd minutes, because we're going to know very soon who's going to be the world champion of the individual time trial. This is the Kosovo rider, Nua, who is about to finish this course. And a time of just over 58 minutes. Racing to the finish for Nua of Kosovo. And we'll stop the clock around about 58.5 minutes, 58.25, 3-4 for the rider from Kosovo. Any moment now then, the final rider starting. This is the defending champion about to take to the start. The Belarusian Vasyl Kirienka. When he won the world title last year, I think everyone was really pleased for him. He's a rider that everyone loves just purely from the brute power and force and the admiration you have for the way he rides on the front for Team Sky in the Grand Tours.
Yeah, I think he's probably, if you were to actually calculate, I'm sure there's someone out there who's done it already. If not, they certainly have the technology to do it. He probably spends more time on the front of the peloton than any other rider, certainly in the summer in the Tour de France. He's the rider who's always there, you know, doing the hard yards, doing all that work for his team leaders. And yeah, it was you know, good victory by him. He has had a bit of a, in terms of time trialling, a lackluster season, you know, bearing in mind that he has worn that rainbow jersey. But can he get himself back to that kind of form?
The arrival of Roglic at the intermediates point number 2, and he has gone through there with the 6th fastest time. Just to update you on some other intermediate points, Taylor Phinney has gone through the first intermediate time split, 4th fastest time, 9.92 seconds down. Anton Voroviev, 5th fastest time. Manuel Kinziato, 6th fastest. Primoz Roglic, 7th fastest. Luke Durbridge, 8th fastest so far. It looks like Jonathan Castroviejo is pretty close to the time of Ryan Mullen in the opening phase of this individual time trial. This young Irish rider has been in the hot seat for a long, long time now. But I think it's only going to be the big names who are going to get anywhere close to troubling him. But certainly we're going to see a real showdown on the run-in to the finishing line. The arrival of Smukulis of Latvia. 47 minutes has gone by, so he's going to be around about the 5th fastest time, maybe 6th fastest time for Smukulis of Latvia as he races to the completion of this race.
Yep, the national time trial and road race champion of Latvia. Not quite able to push himself up there onto a podium spot, but good solid ride by him. 1:16 down.
Asadov about to finish, just over 50 minutes. Some more predictions. Lawrence says Ryan Mullen, the winner. Tony Martin, 2nd. Tom Dumoulin in 3rd place. And also Wendy says Rowan Dennis and Luke Durbridge. Shapiro says Rowan Dennis is a shoo-in.
Forged in the furnace of many Aussie extreme summers. Well, I've spent a couple of summers out in Australia, and I can vouch for that.
Shane Miller says, has the sock height rule ever been enforced, and is there a measurement jig? I have seen, I don't know whether you have, I've seen socks measured.
Yeah, it's funny because when a rider's out there on the bike, as we just see Campanart's coming in 11th at that first time check. Yeah, the rule is half of your leg, 50% of the way up, and the measurement is taken from your ankle bone up to your knee, on where your knee bends. And so obviously it comes halfway up your calf, but certainly some of the riders you look and you think it looks way past that. But you know, it is actually, they will measure it, they should be measuring it. That is the rule, and it should be enforced most certainly.
This is the arrival then of Yves Lampaert. I think he's going to be one of the fastest rides we've seen so far. You can see the speed as he goes round that right-hand turn. Yves Lampaert has caught the rider in front of him by the looks of things as he makes his way to the finish. Hugo Hewler trying to stay with him. Yves Lampaert past the time of Ryan Mullen, and now he needs to beat the time of Jos van Emden, Lampaert of Belgium. This is going to be a respectable ride. It's going to put him into the hot for a little while, for sure. Yves Lampaert now racing to the conclusion of this. He's going to beat Van Emden. He's just going to do it. He just does it. So Yves Lampaert now moves into the hot seats. Jos van Emden is the rider who is now in third place overall. The top three changes: Ryan Mullen, Yves Lampaert, Jos van Emden are the fastest riders now at the finishing line.
Well, that's your 3 spots in the finish house for now. There you go.
Ryan Mullen. Just looking at he's in a world of his own right now.
Another rider using up his data on his phone.
He is. I think the Qatar mobile phone company will be making a fortune this week, the amount of data these riders are using. Just looking at other split times, Taylor Phinney we mentioned, 4th fastest. Jos van Emden had the fastest time at 26.4, but then faded away a little bit. The rider we're looking at now is Jonathan Castroviejo. He's got a great style on the bike, hasn't he?
This is very kind of old school, really, you know, really laying across the bike, all the weight on his shoulders. That many riders have gone away from, but it certainly suits a Spanish rider, and he revels in that kind of position.
He does. He's almost down on the ground. He's so low. As we look here at Bob Jungels, think of back to May for him in the Giro d'Italia. He was an exceptional rider. He looked very, very good, but Jungels is going to go through this first split, and he is going to be around about the 9th fastest time, 16:37, I think, for Bob Jungels. As we see the arrival now of Stephen Cummings of Great Britain. Been a tough day out there.
Yeah, a lot of sweat, a lot of dehydration, fluid being lost, and again he'll be one of the riders who will be trying to get his recovery as soon as he can, ready for Sunday's road race, where he's got a big rendezvous, no doubt on or near the front of the peloton, and certainly doing a lot of work for his team leader there, Mark Cavendish, and his teammate as well from Dimension Data.
Yep, another Dimension Data rider, Steve Cummings then. Heading towards the finish. He's going to be inside the top 10 by the looks of things so far in this race. He's going to do that. He's going to be the 9th fastest time. Cummings finishes 47:31.52. And look at the speed, 50.499 kilometers an hour, and that puts you
Quick.
9th.
Yeah, it's yeah, that's a bit of pill to swallow, that one. You know, big average speed, but still only just getting you for now as well, just in that top 10.
But if you were averaging well over 50k an hour for a time trial and finishing 9th, it would be pretty hefty, wouldn't it? You'd be thinking, oh, I've gone that quick.
And yeah, that's I think it's expected, certainly. I don't think Steve Cummings had any illusions of getting himself on the podium here, but you know, a good ride by him, and here you can see Castroviejo just making that bend, and that's, you know, this is one of the difficult sections where you've got a lot of heat. You go into that bend, you slow down, you lose all your momentum, you can't carry much, if any, around that bend, and then you've got to accelerate back up, and here you can see straight back into that position. It really is quite incredible, that.
I love the way his hands are almost on the front wheel, aren't they? It's just so low at the front of this bike. And we talked a little bit yesterday in the women's time trial. Lucy and I were talking about the fact that it doesn't matter whether you're tall or short. As long as you can produce the power, then you'll go as quick.
Yeah, there's a balance. You know, obviously, generally a bigger rider will have more power, but they need more power to actually go the same speed. So a lot of it's this balance and this weighing up between position and power, and if you were to make a graph with an axis on, and you would find the points where they meet, your power and your efficiency aerodynamically, and you know, if one goes up, the other one will often drop down, so you get a more powerful position, a more upright, you really open your hips up. So in terms of Castroviejo here, it's not a very, generally for most people, it wouldn't be a very powerful position. If he was to ride like on a turbo train or on a rig, he wouldn't be able to produce that much power, but it's very aerodynamic for him, for his body shape.
Here's the current standings. Ryan Mullen of Ireland is the leader of this time trial. He is in the hot seat with Yves Lampiet and Jos van Emden. Ryan just working away on his phone, updating everybody on exactly what's happening here in Qatar.
What a time to play Pokemon.
Exactly. There surely isn't a Pokemon around that hot seat. Looking here at Vorobiev, the Russian rider, 44 seconds down. Lawrence McIntosh thinks the conditions have changed since Ryan Mullen rode. I think we're kind of giving that indication right now as we see the arrival of Jack Bauer. Out on the course, Bauer hasn't been setting fast times, but he looks like he could maybe just sneak inside the top 10, the New Zealander. And just behind him is the rider that I think he's caught, which is Navadauskas, and Bauer 10th fastest, 47.47, 3.6. Navadauskas is going to be around about the 49.5 minute mark as he hits the line, 49.26, 9.3, 19th fastest. The conditions have changed a little bit.
Yeah, we've seen it. They've drifted just a little bit over the course of the race, and that's generally the thing, and it's often the luck of the draw. But there you can see Jack Bauer just fighting his way up to the finish, and that's a good solid ride by him. And obviously had a nice catch as well with Navadauskas in the latter parts of the race just to help pull himself out there.
Here's the arrival then of Luke Durbridge, the Australian rider, trying to get to the line inside the top 6 riders in this individual time trial. Luke Durbridge is going to arrive at the line now in 47.11, and that is 6th fastest. I think Luke's going to be disappointed with that ride today.
Yeah, I think Turbo Durbo blown a gasket just a little bit there.
Here's the arrival of Tony Martin. What a ride. The time to beat is 16:13.56. Tony Martin is going to arrive there. Is he going to obliterate the time of Ryan Mullen? The answer is, as he hits the line, he does. 16 minutes 5.96, 7.6 seconds faster by Tony Martin.
Yep, and I think it's fair to say that Tony Martin, of all the riders out here, will be one of those top riders who will be able to get himself round here very evenly paced, and not misjudge it. Let's certainly, for his sake, hope that, because that is a quick time. As you can see him just take a drink, go straight for that very efficiently, not losing too much time. You lose a very, very slight amount of, you gain some aerodynamic drag, which will slow you down, but it's barely measurable, to be fair. But you can see him straight back into position, his number pinned on, very low, just down the back, out of the way, and his radio, and he's got a hydration system on there as well. So many of the riders opting to use both. As we go to Rowan Dennis now.
This is Rowan Dennis of Australia, the rider we talked about before, who had that disappointment of the Olympic Games. He's such a great bike rider, a good road rider, a great time trialist. Rowan Dennis now trying to get to that intermediate time split, and he's going to be in the ballpark, there's no doubt about that. The question is, can he hold the time against Tony Martin of Germany? Rowan Dennis then arriving at this intermediate time split. The time of Tony Martin is going to go by, but it's not going to go by too much. But interestingly, the time of Ryan Mullen might go past. So Rowan Dennis arrives at the checkpoint, 4th fastest, 16:16.31. But he is a rider who can measure his effort that you've talked about, Rob. He generally goes out steady and accelerates really, really hard as the time trial continues. Yeah,
10.35 seconds. That's a good start by Rowan Dennis. And, he, again, a rider who we know can measure his effort. So good quality opening first part of the race there for Rowan Dennis.
Rowan Dennis looking good, 4th fastest. Tony Martin, the leader. Just an update. Alex Dowsett's just gone through the 26.4 kilometre point, 8th fastest time for Alex Dowsett, who looks now to be increasing his tempo. And he is a rider who is extremely good at controlling his tempo, and Taylor Phinney now has gone third fastest through the 26.4 kilometres. So the two riders who are out on the course who are looking good, Alex Dowsett and Taylor Phinney, both looking strong, Rob. And those two riders, previous teammates when they were under 23 riders.
Yeah, they were, and you know, so they know each other very well. They won't really probably know too much about what's going on with each other out there at the moment, but Phinney 13 seconds, just outside 13 seconds off the quickest time there at 26.4 so far. But obviously with more riders coming here, we can see Dumoulin losing a little bit of time here to Tony Martin.
This is a surprise then. Tom Dumoulin has opened up the first time split with a time of 16 minutes, 27.36, only the 8th fastest time. He loses 21 seconds to Tony Martin over the opening 13.6 kilometres, and he loses 14 seconds on the second place rider, Ryan Mullen, and 13 seconds on Jos van Emden, who's in third place.
Yeah, I don't think Dumoulin will be overly happy with that. But, you know, again, we just don't know. Is he really holding something back? And it's, you know, first time check, second time check. Yes, they're a guide. But the all-important one is obviously this one here that Gruzdev's coming up to now, the final one to stop the clock.
This is Gruzdev, the Kazakhstan rider. 48 minutes 40 is the time that he is looking at right now. As he races to the finish, he's going to stop the clock. 48.47.38, 21st fastest time. We wait the arrival then of Vasyl Kirienka now to the intermediate sprint. It is a sprint. Well, I wouldn't sprint that. That's pretty close. Look at this.
Wow.
Kirienka, 16.826, 2.3 seconds down on Tony Martin. Well, we question, did he have the form? Kirienka is in the ballpark. He's there. He's in with a chance here against Tony Martin.
Oh, well, was Tony Martin getting that coming over the radio, because 2.3 seconds in the opening 13.6K. That rider there from Team Sky, that's a good opener, and proving that he is, at least at this point, back to his best, the rider from Belarusia.
Yeah, he looks very, very good, doesn't he? Very comfortable on the bike, putting the power on. The former ski jumper coming into the finishing line, Primoz Roglic of Slovenia. What sort of time's he going to produce? I thought he might be one of the riders who would be in the top 5 or 6 places. I don't know if he's going to beat the time here of Luke Durbridge. But it's looking okay for Roglic, but he's not going to be anywhere near the winning time. And I wonder that winning time could be underneath the 46-minute mark by the looks of things. But Ryan Mullen still produced a great final phase of this time trial, and that might have been the strategy that's paid off. Roglic then, 47.29.05, 10th fastest time, pushes Steve Cummings down to the next point. And the arrival here of, well, that was the replay.
There we go. But yeah, I think whatever happens from now on, I think Ryan Mullen should be happy with his ride.
Should be really proud of the way he rode that time trial, because anything that happens now, there's only going to be big names who are going to beat Ryan Mullen. Here's the update if you've just joined us. The young Irish rider Ryan Mullen is the leader of this individual time trial, 46 minutes and 4.74. Yves Lampaert second. Jos van Emden is in third place. Biablowski holding 5th place. He'll be disappointed. He wanted to win this time trial, but he's still up there in the top 5 places. These are the riders who are in the hot seats right now. Jos van Emden also in the hot seat, Yves Lampaert, but this young Irish rider, a great performance by him, so aerodynamic. Gave it absolutely everything he could.
Yep, and that was a grimace, I promise you, not a smile as he crossed the line there and just tried. Now he's smiling.
Yeah. What is he thinking right now? Because this young Irish rider has beaten some huge names, and we have got only around about half an hour till we know who's going to take this victory.
Ooh.
Oof, Tony Martin's looking good.
He is. The Panzerwagen, he's going full gas at the moment, isn't he, on this big straight section. Apparently his usual 58 tooth chainring on the front, so if that's news to people they don't quite understand, it's big.
It's huge.
It's a big gear that he's riding as Nicolas Roche just comes in.
Nicolas Roche finishes, shakes his head. Didn't enjoy that at all.
Takes his visor off just to try and get some airflow across his face, so he can't emulate his Irish teammate Ryan Mullen.
I think the way Nicolas is, though, he'll be very happy with to congratulate the performance of Ryan Mullen and know that he's still there in the hot seats after a long time. Looking down on Vasyl Kirienko, look at that. It's rock steady. There's no movement at all. He just churns the gear over and he will just be concentrating. Just wants to get there and wants to defend this title against Tony Martin.
Yep, just measuring this effort out. And, well, he's on the same kind of time level with Ryan Mullen. So still he is there. Just losing a little bit. But, you know, just measuring that effort. So is Tony Martin there. Yeah, Tony Martin had got a big chainring, allegedly a 58 on the front there. You can see it is a bit of a monster, but he's turning it round quick. Big high cadence.
The pedalling stroke on Tony Martin is just exceptional to watch. He just churns the gear round with so much ease. The arrival then of Vorobiev of Russia. This looks like a good ride here by the Russian rider. He's got 500 meters to go, though, so still a little way to go to the finishing line. May well be dropping back and outside the top 8 or 9 riders for Vorobiev of Russia. Only 17 riders now left to finish. And as the time clicks through, so we start to see the possibility of Ryan Mullen getting a medal here in these championships.
Getting closer and closer, isn't it? If he doesn't, then unfortunately he's going to have a last-minute disappointment because it's going to be right down to the wire with the final riders as Vorobiev just finishes a minute down. Next rider should be Manuel Quinziato of Italy coming into the finish.
Yep, Quinziato, Stefan Kung, Alex Dowsett, Taylor Finney. We know that Finney's going fast. We know that he's very close to the time of Ryan Mullen. The question is, can he find a little bit more speed on that final run in? Dumoulin needs to definitely find some more speed because right now he is not on the money as far as the time is concerned. But we know Dumoulin is so able to control his effort, control his ride. He'll know exactly what's going on. He'll know what he needs to do. A good question. Twitter, if you do want to join us at Ant McCrossan, at Rob Hales1, are the riders allowed to have earpieces to get updates on their performance?
Unfortunately for some riders, yes, they are. And some of those updates won't be good news, I'm afraid. But yeah, they will be getting time checks from their driver, from their team director back in the car following them.
Daniel Turek of the Czech Republic, 27th fastest. The rider who's won a stage of the Tour of Azerbaijan completes the course, and the arrival now of Manuel Quinziato, a team time trial world champion, heading towards the finishing line now. Quinziato is going to be outside the top 7 riders. May well just be outside the time here of Luke Durbridge, and he needs to beat the time of Andre Grifko. Now to the conclusion of this ride. Quinziato, 10th fastest, 47.22.34. Now out on the course at 26.4 kilometers. A new 3rd fastest time by Matthew Bodnar of Poland. Bodnar goes through 12.66 seconds slower than the time of Jos van Emden and just behind the time of Ryan Mullen, but he's now the 3rd fastest rider on the course. Taylor Finney, the 4th fastest rider. As we see the arrival now of the Danish rider, Martin Marsden, is about to finish, the time trial champion of Denmark, heading towards the conclusion of this time trial.
And 2nd in the recent Duo Normand with his partner. So again, a rider who we know has got form. and looking to get himself right up there certainly in a top 10. He'll be hopeful for that by the end of today.
Well, Madston's looking good. He has not really figured out there on the course. We haven't seen his times, but he's now going to move himself right up on the leaderboard, and he's going to be 5th fastest. A great ride by Madston of Denmark to get there into the 5th fastest time.
Yeah, really fighting his way up to the finish there, giving it absolutely everything. You know, it's measured all the way until the final couple of kilometres, and then it's just about hanging on to what you've got. Anything you've got left in the tank, you just really have to turn the screw and empty it, no holding back. If you've run out of energy completely, then it's just literally is hanging on and just squeezing it out up those final few hundred metres.
Jan Harms reminded me that Dennis also had a broken aero ski in the Olympics, but he had a bike change last year in the time trial, we remember. So he needs a little bit of luck today.
Yeah, he's had a bit of a shocker the last couple of seasons. So yeah, he deserves a little bit of good luck. If he gets that, whether that's good enough, he certainly need the form and the power to carry him through.
This is the arrival then of Stefan Kung of Switzerland. Stefan Kung of Switzerland heading towards the finishing line now. He's got this little uphill rise to do. Reto Hollenstein, his teammate, he's gone past that time. That's a little bit of a surprise. So it's thought that Stefan Kung might go a little bit faster, and certainly the faster of the two Swiss riders. But Stefan Kung lifting up the tempo now, racing to the conclusion of this individual time trial. And after this, we've only got 14 riders who are left to finish this time trial, and we'll decide where the rainbow bands are going to go. At the moment, it's Tony Martin who's setting the standard out on the course. Stefan Kung, 47 minutes 7, 47 minutes 8, 8th fastest time. We're hearing out on the course Tony Martin through the 26.4 kilometre split. Tony Martin is now the fastest rider. He goes through 36 seconds faster than Ryan Mullen. So Tony Martin, without doubt, is setting the standard for all these riders to try and beat.
Certainly a decent chunk of time there, that advantage. As we go back to the current standings.
And Ryan Mullen is the leader. Lampert is second. Jos van Emden is third. But we need to see now whether any riders are going to get anywhere close to the time of Ryan Mullen. I can see that Alex Dowsett's not far away, and he looks to be accelerating even more. We might see Alex Dowsett inside the top 6 riders here at the finishing line, judging by his performance. Rowan Dennis now setting himself up for this second time split, but Dennis also looks to not have the arrival then of Alex Dowsett. He's giving this as much throttle as he can. He's outside the time of Ryan Mullen. This has hurt him, but he could be inside the top 5 riders. Alex Dowsett of Great Britain is going to stop the clock now, and he does. 5th fastest time, 46.54.07 for Dowsett.
Yeah, well, I think he should be fairly pleased with that ride. Just see him licking his lips up there, just trying to get some kind of moisture there. Commonwealth Games champion.
Well, I know he feels like he could win the World Championship one day. Ryan Mullen still there. And it's still the Dutch rider, Jos van Emden, Yves Lampaert, Ryan Mullen. But we are seeing a little bit of a changing of things out on the course at 26.4 kilometres. De Moulin doesn't have the speed today so far, but don't take that as read, because Dowsett was way down and came faster and faster towards the finishing line. A very good effort by him. Tony Martin's the fastest rider on the course for Germany. Jos van Emden second fastest so far. Rowan Dennis now is starting to pick up the tempo, we hear. And Rowan Dennis goes 3rd fastest out on the course through the next intermediate time split. So the teams and the riders we're worrying about, Tony Martin, Rowan Dennis, and also Jonathan Castroviejo is a rider who could potentially move into the medals as well. So it's Dennis, Martin and Castroviejo, Rob, who are the fastest riders on the course so far.
Yeah, Rowan Dennis, the Australian, has managed to nibble about 4 seconds back on the current leader at the finish, Ryan Mullen. So again, a rider who we know and expect to have paced it well and at the moment he's going good. As we go back now, 62 kilometers an hour for the rider from Belarus, defending champion Vasil Kirienka. He just sits there, rock solid, doesn't he? Just doesn't move in the saddle, no rocking, no rolling, just sit there, pushing those pedals round.
It's the sort of style you want, isn't it? Just the ability to sit
nice
there
and smooth
and be going absolutely flat out, which is what he's doing.
Yep, really going quick at the moment.
Vasil Kirienka heading towards Rob Intermediate split number 2 now. So not far to go to the finishing line. This splits at 26.4. So you've got 13.6k to go to the finish.
21.8 seconds, 53.1 kilometers an hour average. That is big, but not quite as big as Tony Martin at the moment.
No, Kirienka goes through that split then with a time of 29.49.09. The arrival of Taylor Phinney. He looks to be suffering a little bit now into the finishing line. He was looking fast, but he looks like he's fading away just a little. Taylor Phinney of America. The time to beat here was 46.04.74. He's not going to do that. Ryan Mullen will be his teammate next year on Cannondale Drapac. Taylor Phinney then finishes in a time of 47.467, 8th fastest time for Taylor Phinney of the United States of America.
Well, I think we'll probably be a little bit disappointed with that, Taylor Phinney, but you know what, bearing in mind the condition that he's come from, you know, 22nd in the Olympics, which certainly was a disappointment, I feel, but he's improved on that, so that's a good ride, I think, by Taylor Phinney.
All the riders are through 26.4 kilometres. That is Tony Martin, the fastest time. Vasil Kirienka, second fastest. Jos van Emden, third. Rowan Dennis, fourth. Ryan Mullen, fifth. Costrovecco is sixth. Bodnar, then Phinney. So who's got it in the legs over the closing phase to take a medal? And what is Dumoulin doing out there on the course? Is he accelerating? Or is he slowing down? That's the big question.
Back to Kirienka now. Took that bend very well. You know, didn't relinquish any of the force through the pedals. Just sat there nice and opening himself up here on a big straight section now. Tony Martin using that power that he's got to good effect. 51 kilometers an hour on there as it just starts to dip down.
Can't let any concentration go now, can he?
Nearly a minute on Mullen.
That is a very, very good ride by Tony Martin. He's not letting the time of Mullen bother him. Look at that, he's just got faster. 20 seconds, 36, 46, 59. Oops, and Marshall just walked across in front of him. So Kirienka is out on the course. Can he find a little bit more speed? He's 21 seconds down.
He's working hard, isn't he?
And he's 10 seconds faster than Ryan Mullen so far. The arrival here of Edvald Bosenhagen. The grimace on his face, I think, is telling a big story. Edvald Bosenhagen's not enjoyed this at all.
No, he's really just trying to fight his way to this bend. It'll open up in a minute, the straight, and he'll see it and he'll know that his day is done. But really hasn't had a fantastic day out there, I don't think, Bosenhagen.
Probably a good time for a question from Andy Mack, who says, do you think it's good to do the team time trial? Does it have a positive or a negative effect on a performance today?
I think generally for most of the guys, it's you know, it's a positive effect for them. It gets them here, it sets them up. A lot of it depends on how much time they've spent out here. Some people like to be away from home a lot longer and be, you know, within these conditions, and certainly they would have if they were out here for a few days, 4 or 5 days, maybe a week even, before the team time trial, then it would give their bodies a little bit more time to adapt, especially for guys coming from Europe. So generally it will be of a benefit for most of the guys.
The arrival of Victor Camponet, who's going to be outside the top 12 riders. Coming in now to complete this 40-kilometre time trial. This is the World Championship, the individual time trial for men, and Victor Camponet is going to be outside the top 17. He'll be 18th, 47.33.99 for that rider from Belgium, the under-23 European champion, just 3 years ago. And now we have only 9 riders left to complete the course to decide where the medals are going. It is a nervous wait for Ryan Mullen of Ireland.
I think it's, as we go back to the 3 guys currently on the podium position, I think it's fair to say that all things being equal, Tony Martin is certainly the man who it's his race to lose, but there is a huge, close, tightly fought battle for 2nd and 3rd at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, the riders who could take the medals, Kirienka, Rowan Dennis, Ryan Mullen, Castroviejo. It's all possible that Mullen could get a medal. He might end up being just outside them, but Tony Martin, without any shadow of a doubt, is the fastest rider on the course. He's just getting faster and faster all the time. 109 now, yes, ahead of Mullen.
Another 10 seconds. Since we saw him last on this same bit of road, 10 seconds he's taken out. So he really is, he's flying now, Tony Martin. He's not, you know, certainly not holding anything back. He can't, but he's paced it well and is still able to deliver more and more power.
This is the arrival then of Bob Jungels, the Luxembourger. A great potential for a Grand Tour victory in the future as he races into the conclusion of this time trial. He's caught Johan Le Bon, who is just behind him, wearing number 9. Bob Jungels outside the time here of Ryan Mullen. So the Luxembourger is going to complete his individual time trial. The pain can stop any minute now for Bob Jungels. Could be looking at a potential top 3 here if he can. No, he's outside the top 4 now, riders now for Bob Jungels. It's so close at the top here. Yeah,
good ride by Jungels. Another one of the riders who's, you know, performed earlier on in the week in the team time trial. Just pops himself ahead of Alex Dowsett, but he had a good catch as well in the latter stages there by with Johan Le Bon, the French rider.
7 riders left to finish to decide where this world title is going, but all the indications are that Tony Martin is going to be the fastest rider, but he's obviously got to get himself here to the finishing line. He had a year that he doesn't want to remember as far as time trialing is concerned, but it can all change on one day. Tom Dumoulin, meanwhile, wonder what's happening out there on the course with him, because you would expect Dumoulin to be figuring, and he hasn't figured yet.
Nope. I think he's really off the boil, isn't he, at this point in the season now. Let's not forget he is coming back from that injury that he sustained on his wrist back in the final week of the Tour de France. A very disappointing for him. Still a silver medal, but admittedly, but still I think a big disappointment at the Olympic Games, coming in as one of the pre-race favourites. But here, he's not able to carry that form on and build on it.
Well, Castroviejo is accelerating now. There's a possibility he can put himself on the podium. He always does this. He did this in Rio and he just didn't quite get there. He was the 4th fastest rider in Rio. And now Castroviejo has moved from 6th fastest at 26.4 kilometres to be potentially going ahead of Ryan Mullen. Is this going to be the rider who beats Ryan Mullen? Look at this. He's very, very close to that time.
Well, we were mentioning earlier about is it about power or is it about technique? And basically having really good skill on the bike. Some have more than others, and there you can see in this latter stages through those bends, Castroviejo really able to put that skill to the best of his ability, and that's where you can start to gain, just small handfuls of seconds, which ultimately at the end of this race could mean a medal or not.
Nelson Oliveira then, another teammate of Castroviejo, as he completes the course. Behind him is Matti Bodnar. Bodnar now racing to the finishing line with what is going to be a great ride. Bodnar, is he going to go top of the leaderboard? He has really powered his way into the finishing line. The first rider under 46 minutes. Matti Bodnar is top of the leaderboard. That was a fantastic final run-in to the finish. He took back 40-odd seconds in the final run-in to the conclusion of this time trial.
Where on earth did Bodnar find that from in the latter stages? Absolutely amazing in that those kilometres really did stretch that out. And there you go, it's a change at the top. And unfortunately for Ryan Mullen, the Irish rider, he moves down. is that ultimately going to move him off the podium completely? Could very well do.
What a ride by Bodnar. He was way down on the time of Ryan Mullen. 40-odd seconds he took back in the final phase of this time trial. But is this the man now who's going to change the guard at the top of the leaderboard yet again? Jonathan Castroviejo, look how hard he is working. Another Movistar rider trying to find a little bit more. Just almost kicking that bike forward to get to the finishing line. 45.59.76 is the time to beat of Bodnar. And he's not far away now from the finishing line. He can't purely finish fourth yet again in a time trial. Jonathan Castroviejo, it's going to be close, but he looks like he's going to get there. He's going to lift it a little bit more. Is he going to do it? The line is coming now. 50 meters to go. He hits the line now. 45.53.90. Top of the leaderboard. Castroviejo is in the hot seat. And just behind him now, Tony Martin now arrives. Look at the time of Tony Martin. 44 minutes 37 goes by. Now going to obliterate the time of Castroviejo. Hits the line in 44.42.99. That's got to be the winning ride.
Minute and 10. Amazing, absolutely amazing. Well, what a rush there to the finish, and those three riders all coming together. And, well, it is unfortunately for Ryan Mullen. He pops himself off that podium.
Just with those three riders coming in together, suddenly we've gone from Ryan Mullen leading to Tony Martin in gold medal position. Castroviejo racing back to get the silver at the moment. Bodnar, but we still have Rowan Dennis, Tom Dumoulin, Kirienka to finish this time trial.
Well, what a finish! What a change! And there you go. There you can see the faces, and well, that's it. We're back off to the hotel. But you know, we did say for Ryan Mullen, the Irishman, I think it was anything else was going to be a bonus just to sit in that hot seat for so long. As we go back to Rowan Dennis now, really mauling that gear round. Got good power still, but has he got the speed?
Well, this is the result of the finish line so far. Tony Martin, Bodnar. Is that the winning ride? Tony Martin, 44.42.99. But you can't discount anyone because we've seen the acceleration of Bodnar, who brought back 40-odd seconds in that final phase of that time trial. And it's an exceptional ride by Bodnar.
Bodnar pulled that out from nowhere, didn't he? Talk about rabbit out of the hat. I didn't see that coming. It wasn't expected at all.
No, not at all. Right, we're back now with Rowan Dennis of Australia. Makes his way around these turns. Can he pull this one back? Rowan Dennis, who has been figuring, he was fourth fastest through the 26.4 kilometre point. 1 kilometre to go for Rowan Dennis. He's rocking and rolling all over the place. He's in a big gear. He's giving this as much as he can to try and give himself a medal here. Rowan Dennis of Australia, those legs look like they are really hurting now. The sweat is absolutely pouring off the Australian.
Yeah, and it looks like he's coming in for around about fifth place at the moment as he comes to the finish, just off the podiums, I feel. Not quite in sight yet here at the finish line. He's got this big open right-hander here to make his way through, but he's not giving up. He's fighting all the way to the line, but I feel he's going to be just outside the medals, unfortunately.
Rowan Dennis heading to the conclusion of his individual time trial. He hoped for much, but I don't think he's going to get in the medals, the Australian rider. He'll go away during the winter and he will come back, I'm sure, with the power that this rider has got and win some big time trials. Fifth fastest for Rowan Dennis. That's been a hard day on the bike.
Yep, gulping the air in there. Can't come off those bars. He just lies there across the bike, trying to recover, gasping for the air. And that was a big, big effort. Looked so promising from the start, but just started to fade near the end.
Only two riders left to finish. Tom Dumoulin, Vasil Kirienka. Kirienka now is into the final run-in to the finishing line. He's got to beat a time of Tony Martin, 44.42.99, and he is still riding at well over 50 kilometers an hour. Don't discount Kirienka coming back to win this time trial, or at least getting the medals. Castrovieco's got to be happy. I think he's going to get a medal this time. Matti Bodnar may well be a rider who could drop out of the top 3, but let's wait and see. All the splits show us that Kirienka isn't going to beat the time of Tony Martin, but we know what Bodnar did, Rob, over that final run-in.
Well, it looks like Kirienka could very well be riding himself into a podium spot, quite possibly the silver medal as well, but I really don't think that he's going to be able to accelerate as much as he needs to be able to topple the German Tony Martin. Way off the pace now, considering his expectations, I feel, and certainly on paper looks like this is a disappointing ride for the Dutchman.
Yeah, it just hasn't been his day today. Tom Dumoulin just suffering his way to the line. He's going to be outside the top 6. Well, at some point that injury that he had and the rehabilitation coming back so quick has got to pay, and maybe today it was.
Well, that's the thing, you know, he had to come back quick for the Olympic Games, only a couple of weeks after that injury that he picked up, and I think that's probably had a massive knock-on effect for his form here.
He crosses the line, 10th fastest. It's not been a day for Tom Dumoulin. But here's the arrival of Vasil Kirienka. He's not going to take the gold medal, but can he take the silver? Tony Martin is the world champion. Vasil Kirienka hits the line, silver medalist. 45.28.04. Tony Martin is the world champion. He takes the victory. There he is. What a win by Tony Martin.
The man's back. He's got it back. That's 4 world titles now. He lent it to Kirienka for 12 months. But unfortunately for the rider from Belarus, he had to hand it back to the better man.
Well, what a day. The Germans have had a great World Championship so far. He's ecstatic with that victory. He put in so much work to win that world title. Tony Martin takes the gold. Vasil Kirienka takes the silver. Castrovieco, I'm really happy for him. 4th so many times. He takes the bronze medal. Bodnar takes 4th. Ryan Mullen, the Irish youngster, takes 5th place in the Elite World Championships, having led all the time. That is a stunning ride by Ryan Mullen of Ireland.
Incredible ride by the youngster from Ireland. Just off the podium there. But today, it's all about that man. He looked calm, he looked comfortable and relaxed in the hotel yesterday. And he can relax now. It's all smiles, and rightly so.
Yeah, he's come back. Last year he was so disappointed. And he was beaten by Wiggins in 2014. He was 3 times the champion from 11 to 13. And now he gets his 4th. He equals the record of Fabian Cancellara to take the most victories in the World Championship time trial. He's dealt with the heat very well indeed. He's acclimatized exceptionally well. And here is the rundown of the top 10. It's Tony Martin who takes the gold. Kirienka takes the silver. Castrovieco takes the bronze medal. The top 10 made up of Bodnar, Mullen, Dennis, Lampiet, Van Emden, Hollenstein and Jungels. That's the top 10 of today. Dumoulin was 11th, Dowsett was 12th, Biablowski in 14th. There's where Finney finished, and Kung and Durbridge and Oliveira. But a fantastic performance by Tony Martin to take the title today.
Well, it was all at the finish, wasn't it? It was all at the back end.
It was.
You
and
know,
all together.
Yep, get that time. Didn't have time to draw breath, and then the time was going up and up. Or the time was coming down, the speed's going up and up. And, well, what a finish to today's time trial.
Yeah, it was. It was a stunning finish. Suddenly we went from Ryan Mullen leading to the ride of Bodnar, which was the big surprise over that final part of the time trial. Castrovieco, a great performance by him. He just accelerated so well into the finishing line. But Tony Martin never in doubt, really, all the way through. Started off 20 seconds, 40 seconds, a little bit faster, well over a minute. He's so pleased.
much.
Thank you.
Wow, you're so strong, man.
You're so strong, man. Yeah.
Congrats.
I gotta miss you, man. I gotta miss you.
Oh, they're going to miss each other. Good teammates.
Stop, enjoy it.
Yves Lampert, the Belgian rider, congratulating former teammates. Tony Martin moving to Katusha Alpecin for next season. All smiles from Patrick Lefevre, and I wonder what he's thinking, because he's about to lose the fastest time trialist in the world.
Should have had deeper pockets, shouldn't he?
Exactly.
That's what it's all about. You know, it's ultimately, you know, this is about your nation fighting for your country. And there are one or two sport directors from Ethics Quickstep. There's a couple of them there. They'll still be happy for their rider, Tony Martin. And there you go. But yep, next year it'll be pastures new for Tony Martin. He's moving on.
Yep. All congratulations from all the team. Well, they've shared an awful lot of time together. He's been with Ethics for a long, long time. And he's gone to Katusha for next season. We're going to hear from him in a minute. But Tony Martin is the world champion. Kirienka takes the silver. A great defence by Kirienka of today's time trial, having won it last year, beating Mallory and Coppell.
Certainly beats his best time trial performance this year of third earlier on in the year.
It does. Well, let's hear now from the new world champion.
The perfect week for you, Tony Martin, the team time trial on Sunday, and now the individual time trial. What does this represent? It's a fourth championship crown.
Yeah, it's amazing. I still can't believe it. I mean, everybody know that I hadn't got a good year so far until Sunday. So yeah, in my second last race this year, getting world champion is incredible, and that makes everything forgotten that happened in the year. It's amazing. I think it will be also giving me a lot of strength also for the next year.
It was a perfect effort out there. You really were impressive. It's a course made for you, with the flats, the straights, the technical bends.
Yeah, the course was really made for me. The only thing I was scared of was the heat, but I have to say I made a good preparation already at home. Then coming here, having also a really good week with the team, I get a lot of knowledge what I have to do also for today. I learned a lot from last Sunday. I was really also strong in the head. I mean, I was not the favorite. I had no pressure at the start. I just had fun on the road, I have to say, and then yeah, getting to know that I had from the start the best time. Yeah, just made my race perfect from the start, and I actually had a lot of morale until the finish.
A fourth crown, as many crowns as Fabian Cancellara. That must mean a lot to you as well.
Yeah, I always said I don't count the victories. I look forward from year to year. I want to be actually world champion every year. So for the moment, I'm so proud that I'm able to wear the world champion suit the whole next year. I mean, I missed it really a lot, and I'm just looking forward now to ride next year with the jersey.
A word in German for the German fans. What does this title represent for you? Can you take us through your effort?
Ja, dieser Titel heute macht wirklich die komplette Saison eigentlich, die bis jetzt noch nicht so gut gelaufen ist, vergessen. Jeder, der mich kennt, weiß, dass ich wirklich sehr hart für meine Erfolge arbeite. Und dann nagt das extrem an mir, wenn ich die Ziele, die ich mir setze, nicht erreichen kann. Und heute war definitiv auch ein großes Ziel, auch wenn ich das nicht vielleicht so kommuniziert habe. So wusste ich schon in meinem Inneren, dass ich heute wirklich Weltmeister werden könnte. Ja, dass ich das jetzt wirklich auch so umgesetzt habe, macht mich verdammt stolz auf mich selbst und gibt hoffentlich auch ein ganzes Stück den Leuten zurück, die das ganze Jahr für mich gearbeitet haben. Und ja, jetzt kann ich wirklich erlöst noch das Rennen am Sonntag gestalten oder fahren und dann wirklich mit einem guten Gefühl auch in Urlaub gehen.
Dankeschön. Congratulations.
Tony Martin, a great long interview there with him to find out exactly how today went. There wasn't any doubt all the way through. He just was in control.
All the way from the start. He just see some some shots of him earlier on in the race. You know, again, he was on about the conditions. The sweat really was pouring off him, but as he said, he's prepared for this well. You know, he knew exactly what he was going to have to deal with. He has had a lackluster year in terms of time trialling. Obviously, he said he's missed that jersey, and rightly so. He's worn it 3 times before, so you know he will now be able to look down every time at his sleeve, at his jersey, before he goes into every time trial for the next 12 months at least. And see that reflection of the rainbow jersey again, which is a great morale boost.
Yeah, it means a massive amount, doesn't it, for him to be able to have the rainbow jersey. He wants to wear it. He's just saying to everyone, just let me get past.
There you go. I think he's fairly confident, and it's going to take more than waving your arms to slow that man down.
Yeah, he just...
Never lay your bike gear side down.
Exactly. Mechanics say thanks very much.
Hey, change of teams, change of sponsor next year, someone else's bike next year.
Well, just shows how much it means. He wants to be world champion every year. He doesn't count the victories. The mechanic will be counting the scratches at the end of that, for sure. Wow, a very good day for the Germans. That meant everything to him. I think there might be a little celebration in our hotel this evening.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
Hope they keep the noise down. I
Yeah.
want an early night.
You want an early night.
Big day tomorrow again, so the racing doesn't stop, does it? It continues. But yeah, it'll be back on the road race Sunday for Tony Martin. But I'm sure there'll be a little bit of a celebration for him tonight. But he's got a big job to do come the weekend with 2 big riders for this course, with obviously Marcel Kittel and I think outright team leader Andre Greipel. But today it's all about Tony Martin.
Exactly. The German team got so many sprinters here. We'll see how they do. He'll just recover and he'll get ready. Tony Martin, great day for him. Rowan Dennis saying just wasn't his day. His power was 30 watts less than what he was holding on Sunday.
So that's you know, that's a big chunk to have just missed out on the podium. That would certainly have put him just above Castroviejo if he was able to hold that, but ultimately it's what you can deliver on the day. So yeah, there will certainly be 1 or 2 people scratching their heads and a little bit of disappointment for many. Kirienka, I think he'll probably be happy that he's got himself back on the podium. You know, it wasn't like a handful of seconds, was it? 45 seconds the advantage for Tony Martin, but here we've got the bronze medalist finally on the podium, and a very well-deserved medal for him.
Yeah, Jonathan Castroviejo, the bronze medalist. Here's Vasyl Kirienka, silver medalist. Look at the effort. And Tony Martin, the world champion for the 4th time. He even stopped his computer. Making his way now to the podium. Congratulated by Eddie Merckx. Just checking what position he got.
Too skinny for it. Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's you know, are you a big, powerful rider where you've got an awful lot of power, a lot of force through the pedals, but you need that power, as opposed to the smaller riders. Castroviejo, we were talking about his position. You know, he obviously doesn't have a lot of power on a rig, on a static rig. He would probably struggle to make the top 20, 30 in terms of power output compared to a lot of these guys.
Yeah.
but very, very efficient going through the air.
Tony Martin, you're too skinny.
Well, and it makes, you know, it makes a big difference there, as you can see. Kirienka, you know, I think he's smiling, he's happy, I think, with his medal.
Exactly.
But yeah, you know, through all the wind tunnel testing that I did with the British squad, and I continued that after I retired, and I actually lost weight after I retired. Probably one of the more fortunate X bike riders, and the irony being that actually I was more aerodynamic a year after I'd retired than I was, because I'd lost about 2 millimeters of my overall 2 millimeters in terms of you know, the overall kind of skin folds,
right,
which meant that my drag went down. I said to them, well, it's just a shame I've lost probably 70% of my engine.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You know, and that's the thing. It's the balance between power output and aerodynamic efficiency, and you know, you can see the difference. You know, complete difference in pretty much all three of those riders with styles and body shapes.
Tony Martin being congratulated as he makes his way out to the podium to get the world title.
Ladies and gentlemen, the medal ceremony for the UCI Road World Championships.
Our final time trial then, as we wait now to present the medals.
Bronze medalist representing Spain, Jonathan Castroviejo.
Jonathan Castroviejo is the bronze medalist.
UCI Management Committee member, Monsieur Jose Manuel Heray.
Really pleased for Jonathan Castroviejo today. I didn't want him to finish fourth yet again.
Not again. Well, if the form book's anything to go by, then it's about right. The three podium positions taken up all within the final 5 riders to go on today's stage, which, you know, really did bring the final few minutes of today's race. You know, certainly made it exciting.
It did. It changed it totally in the last few minutes. So the silver medal goes to Vasyl Kirienka.
Representing Deutschland, Germany, Tony Martin.
Tony Martin, world champion. Well, he'll be able to wear the rainbow jersey next season in all the time trials.
That's what it's about. That's what this week's all about. It's riders getting those jerseys. Such a proud moment for any rider to pull that on. Huge prize in the you know, in the cycling world, and it's one of the things that I really like about cycling as well. Yes, you get your medal, and your medal they go in the drawer, in your medal table, in your medal cabinet, wherever, when you've got them all and you retire. But it's the jersey is something very special for cycling, and it's I don't think it's done in any other sport. It's all about the medal in them.
It is. This is all about the jersey. Being able to wear that jersey all next season. During the time trials, the fans around the world instantly recognise who you are. And it's taken him 3 years to get it back. Tony Martin, world champion. Well, that's 2 races, 2 titles for Tony Martin. so far.
Not a bad strike rate.
No, it's all right. He's doing well.
You never know, he might chin off in the final 30k on Sunday
and win.
Have another go.
Yeah,
Tell you what,
exactly.
they won't give him an inch if
No,
he does.
exactly.
I think it's fair to say he'll be under stricter orders than that by the team. But who knows, if the wind does get up, he'll certainly be one of those riders who will be at the forefront and able to do an awful lot of damage.
Yeah, for sure. We wait now for the national anthem of Germany.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, in honor of our world champion, let's hear the national anthem of Germany.
Tony Martin, the world champion. Vasyl Kirienka takes the silver medal. Jonathan Castroviejo takes the bronze medal today. The rainbow bands will be worn across the world.
Well, it's official. Tony Martin is officially quicker than Team Astana.
Is he?
And only 11 seconds, sorry, and only 9 seconds slower than Team Katusha from the team time trial on this same course.
Wow.
He would have got himself a top 10 in the team time trial.
On his own.
On his Todd. Good lad.
Well done. An amazing performance by Tony Martin today. All the photographers will get their photos now, and we're going to turn our attention to some road racing, Rob.
Oh, yes. Let's bring it on. Let's hope everybody gets themselves through this course, because it's a lot of it is based on this course, a bit of open road out there, and then this final loop that we've seen. So some bends, very technical, and it's going to take, if the Germans want to take the victory with either Andre Greipel or Marcel Kittel, they will certainly be wanting this man here in the centre there, Tony Martin, to shepherd them through in the final few kilometres on the run-in. It really is going to be some exciting racing, and well, it all starts tomorrow, doesn't it, with the youngsters, with the under-23s.
It does. The first road race is tomorrow, the under-23 road race. I'm sure we're going to see some great racing in that. So we wait for the riders to make their way off the podium. Tomorrow's race, 165 kilometres, Rob. 10 laps of the circuit, which is really technical.
Very technical. You know, for a time trial, it's, you know, as we've seen, it's based on this loop that the guys did, but we've seen the entirety of the loop on a couple of occasions in previous days. So 10 laps of that in a peloton.
It's going to be
Good
a
luck.
big day. It
Good
is.
luck.
Well, he's going to sign now the rainbow jerseys.
Big one.
Big signature. Here we go. He definitely signed a big signature on that jersey. Tony Martin making his way off now to do the various interviews, all the press that he has to do. So fast on the road, Tony Martin. Lots of selfies. What a day of time trialing. Tony Martin, 3 years later, takes the jersey to take his fourth title. Kirienka takes the silver. Castroviejo takes the bronze. From Rob Hales and myself, Anthony McCrossan, thank you very much for watching. Join us for road racing next time. Goodbye for now.
But you would have been ready to go. That's the point. You're blocking your full day. And you don't take any other jobs. You could.